Okay, welcome to the musical debate number 16, even though it's marked as 15 because I'm a moron. We'll blame Mike for that and a little bit of Wes. Um, Welcome to the show, Wes. Welcome to the show, Mike, as always. Some of our, if you guys didn't look like idiots, it would make me look so much more brilliant. You know what I'm saying? So I love having you on the show.
That really doesn't work well if you consider the fact that we are actually only responsible for the first 5 minutes. Josh is the one who kept saying, "Let's just wait a little longer. Let's just wait a little longer before we start." I think that he's just trying to sit there and postpone the show because he didn't want to be on there. So
please, I wouldn't want to eat fish sticks and French fries.
You mean dinner? Yeah. You have to do that every once in a while.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it at 10 o'clock.
So you do. You don't wake up till 8.
Okay, so it's marked as 15, but this is the musical day 16. We will remark it later and brand it somehow, so you know the difference. But then again, we had an 8 and 8.5, so when the fuck have we ever give a shit about the rules? But okay, I came up with the topic since politics seems to be on everybody's brain lately, and that's just the way it is this week. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's rebel flags or gay rights or whether police are bad or good or whatever. It seems to be it. So we're gonna do political music, politically motivated music, and music that has a political overtones, and that will be discussion of the music for the musical debate today. Everybody go with that topic?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I know you would be, Wes. It's the Beatles are. Well, you can talk about the Beatles all day now, thanks to that topic.
Was the first thing that came to mind when he said it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do 20 minutes first on why Josh is an idiot, and then we will move on to why Wes is a ridiculous individual. All right. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm nice. I care about these people. This is my family, so you can imagine what I think of all you people that are listening. Well, I fear. Well, I think I'm going to start doing this show like in wrestling, how you have the face and the heel, right? So what we're going to do is whatever issue we're on, whatever Josh says, I'm going to go the opposite, but I'm going to be like super extreme on it.
So how do you explain the last 15 episodes where you did exactly the same thing?
Oh, I wasn't extreme in those episodes. No, now I'm going to go over the top. Be like, you'll be like, I'm anti-gay, and I'll be like, man, I think that gays are fine. Man, I think that you should be forced to be gay, or something like that. Like I said, I'm just gonna go over the top with it. Screw it.
That works for me, because then I'll just set you up.
Right? Yeah. Well, no, that's fine because
one rule of politics is all you gotta get to do is get them to say it, and then it means it. Doesn't matter if they can totally take it out of context. I see it all the time in politics where they'll be like, if we can just get them to admit something, so they'll set all these barriers and circumstances in a debate, and then eventually that's the only last conclusion. Yes, in these very heightened circumstances, this is what I would do. Ha! We knew you were for war. That's pretty much that's how the political thing goes down.
Hold on one second, Wes. What was it you just said?
About what?
Oh, you had said something when Josh was in the middle of talking, but it kind of cuts you down whenever that.
Oh, I have no idea. I think I said revolution was the first thing that came to mind when he mentioned the debate topic.
The Beatles Revolution?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if the first thing that came to mind this week to me was back in the USSR. And the Beatles were definitely a political group. Not early on, but later on, they pretty much made it all about it. It's like as they grew, as they grew older, politics became everything. And I think that's where the John-Paul separation came from. Was Paul was still into the love, and John really took to politics. He actually should have went to become a politician instead of shot in the head, but he would have probably made a good politician at some point, kind of like Sonny Bono, and all those, the hippies of the days are the guys running the world today, Generation Retard or whatever you want to call it, my parents' generation, where they have a whole lot of political views and not a lot of political knowledge. You're all quiet.
Sorry, I'm
That
actually.
sounds like me.
I'm gonna say I was just kind of letting you go on because I was actually in the middle of something. Sorry about that.
Oh, when I stopped dead on you, I'm sorry. Need a warning light. But no. So the Beatles were probably. I mean, they say the Stones were, but I never really seen the Stones get into it like the Beatles, as far as getting politically into it. And obviously, Sonny Bono became a congressman or whatever, so he dang sure had political, ambitions. I wonder if you had them back then and it just wasn't as, so you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of those hippies went on to put up or shut up, I guess is the way you would say it. They went on to become more than just an average. Like a lot of people dropped the hippie thing in the '60s. Although I thought it was amazing. Let you know how old the Supreme Court justices are. Almost all of them. Scalia makes a reference in one of them to hippies, and I thought, wow, that's pretty old. It's 50 years old. Which means Antonio Scalia has got to be, what, in his 80s? All right, I need some.
Yes.
What?
Sorry. Like I said, just give me 1 second. As far as like I said, you and Wes were going back and forth for a second, so I thought that I don't even know who it is you're
I thought he
referring.
was too. He just kind of stopped on me. Is he still there?
Wes, are
Oh
you
yeah,
there?
I'm still here. I kind of got lost along the way. I honestly do not know a lot about politics, so when it gets into a political debate, I'm going to probably drift once in a while.
Oh, well, no, politics is about musicians and their political ambitions.
And I really got off. I thought you were talking about the Supreme Court justices, and that one of them referred to someone as a hippie. And then you started talking about
the hippie, not about this.
when you got to the 80s, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now, guy.
You know that we do have Supreme Court justices, though, right?
I'm aware of that, yes.
No, waiting on Mike here. We're waiting on Mike. Oh, God, just finish the fish sticks already.
No, the fish sticks are done. They've been done. Sorry, I'm done with that, by the way. That's
you were chewing silently with the mic.
No, like I said, I was literally in the middle of something that was important to me. So, like I said, but that's all taken care of now. So now I'm back in the game. Sorry about that, and I don't want to hear it. And I say when I was talking to you earlier, you kind of drop off and stuff like that. You try to blame it on
that
your.
wasn't my fault. That was a technical error, dickhole.
That's what I'm saying. Try to blame it on your computer, your internet, but you're an IT guy, so that shouldn't be an issue.
I still lose internet connection, you ass.
You used to work for CenturyLink. You should actually lose internet connection less than anyone else out here.
Yeah. Guess what? CenturyLink is the most notorious for that. Their guys expect it to be down. They're like, yeah, they're gonna get around to it when they get around to it.
That's okay. Terry just said it was because you're bad at your job.
No. I'm not bad at my job. I was really good at my job. My job was to tell customers tough shit, and it really was. A lot of it was telling them, we'll get there when we get there. Because it essentially doesn't have a firm policy on its getting there. It's literally, we'll get there when we get there. Has it been 48 hours yet? Nope. Well, then tough shit. Really? I got to set with internet without 2 days because that's your firm policy? But if it extends beyond that, it's still tough shit. I got in trouble more often for helping people. They're like, yeah, but we can't help them. Yeah, but we shouldn't. They'll start to expect things, you know. You do it once, and then they're going to want you to fix it all over again. All right. Okay, back to the debate.
To never be nice to people. They start to expect it.
Right, that's why I'm an asshole to everybody.
Well,
Like,
what you do is you're nice to people for a while, and then you just turn on and be a jerk once, so that way that it keeps them on their toes.
okay. Now, all right, back to the topic. This is what we're discussing was, do you think that people like Sonny Bono and like that went on to be congressmen and things like that had political ambitions even back in their day when they were singing, when basically Sonny and Cher was running around, stuff like that? Do you think he had political ambitions, or do you think they came later in life?
Well, I think that politics in general tends to be an older man's game. In terms of actually pursuing them. When you're younger, I think that you often try to be radical, even if your views are conservative or liberal. That's not what I mean by radical, but rather I think you think that a bottom-up approach of changing the world around you starts from the bottom, and so you go out and you start trying to do things that you think are going to make a difference. And I think that at some point you recognize that that's really just not going to affect change as greatly or quickly as your mortal lifespan allows. And then I think that a lot of times that just leads to the political later on.
Do you think that the JFKs were more effective than the Martin Luther Kings or the Malcolm X's?
I think that in a manner of speaking. For example, had Martin Luther King Jr. been in JFK's position, if he had been president, or in a high-ranking position of some kind, and the fact that he was well-known and well-respected is what gave him the clout he needed. Had he just been some guy walking up on the street and being like, all right, let's do this, then it probably would not have worked as well. But he could have affected the change a lot quicker, easier, and even more intensely than he could have from the position he was in. Now, that's not to say he wasn't effective. Obviously, he was very effective. But I do think that, and I think that the average person doesn't ever even get to that point. You figure Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, okay, when he was younger, he may have appreciated politics, and he may have had a strong view on what he thought was wrong or right.
Right.
But at the same time, he wasn't until he was older that he really got the position that he was looking for to try to affect change. And I think that was important to him to do so only later in life. I don't think that was something he was too concerned about when he was younger.
Well, I guess my biggest
I find it hard to imagine that most people who became famous for, rock and roll, being in movies, I don't think it ever started with political aspiration. It's because it was, enjoyable to them and that they were making money at. And then they decided, hey, now that I'm not doing that so much, I can use that fame to try to push my views and my politics on to the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I think that there is a distinction we made. I like the wording you use here because I think that in a lot of cases, sometimes celebrities just generally want to make a difference, and that happens. And then sometimes they have a personal pet opinion that they want to make sure that everyone else gets forcibly exposed to, which is different. It's one thing to be like, okay, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and get elected to an office and see what I can do to make this world better. And then you have, I'm trying to remember her name. One of the actresses that Demi Moore, one of those people that like basically just got kind of on this really crazy strong high horse and started basically just really pushing that on people. Maybe it wasn't
female actress.
Huh?
That could have been any female actress.
There's one specific.
Rosie O'Donnell, one of those people.
Yes, she is definitely. Yeah, she's the kind of person that if you don't agree with her opinion,
Roseanne Barr ran for president in 2012 or 2008. I can't remember which, but Roseanne Barr ran and got quite a few. I mean, hundreds of thousands of votes. Mind you, minuscule in comparison to the nation, but certainly was impacting to quite a few people that actually took the time to go down and cast a vote for her. It's easy to vote for Donald Duck in theory, but to actually go out there and cast a vote for Roseanne Barr that is just going to be a vote tossed to the side, that takes real persistence. It takes real dedication or belief in the policies that somebody does. I couldn't see somebody being like, I know it's a popularity contest, but only to a point. I mean, I don't believe it's a total popularity contest. I don't believe the most popular person would necessarily be voted president. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say, I don't know who's hot right now. I don't keep up with it, but let's say somebody like Jensen Ackles. Jensen Ackles says, "I'm running for president to 2024. I know he's Canadian. And I don't think he can, but in 2016, and then because he is the most popular person, in the that's running, that he would necessarily get the votes to win in the nomination.
I don't know. I think everyone should vote for Dean.
Dean, yes. Jensen Ackles, he's a Canadian, and
no, he's not. He's from Texas, dude.
I thought he was. I thought both of them on the show were from Canada.
No, they're from Texas. The show shot in Canada.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, that was my misconception. Okay. All right. I thought they were both Canadian.
The actors from Supernatural, Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki.
Okay. All right. And that makes a little more sense because he does seem all American. That's why I was surprised when everybody's like, "Oh, that show's a Canadian show," and with it, I took the inference that the actors were also Canadian as well. So that was my mistake. Little misinformation on my part. Okay, it's good having to know that Dean is from Texas too. That even makes it better. Although, in my opinion, I believe South Carolina is the real Texas. What everybody preaches about Texas independence and all that, I see it more in South Carolina, and than I do Texas, and always have.
Well,
I
was thinking. I don't know. To me, it does. I get where you're coming from, but that's kind of a silly statement in a way. In my opinion, I think that you also have to look at the fact that, to me, Texas stands up exactly as what it is. I think that what you really mean is not that South Carolina is the real Texas, but rather that South Carolina seems to fly under the radar for their stuff, despite the fact that it's strongly is as strongly, or in a lot of cases stronger opposition than Texas has. Of the successionist states, or whatever you want to call them, states that would be likely to rebel, I think Texas is very low on that list. That's what I mean by Texas not being Texas. Although everybody talks about Texas's love for guns, its love for its independence, almost like its own. Most Texans believe, even if it's not is or isn't true, in its own state sovereignty as a nation, because it was once a nation. Yeah.
Where South Carolina, they're the quickest to. They've succeeded succession multiple times. Even when they were like, oh, we need a solution to the gun control problem. Okay, we'll make state-sanctioned guns. State this, state that. They really do. I think the best way to describe the difference is actually just that South Carolina seems to be more proactive. Sure. I think they would be the first to make that move that everybody keeps on. And even the justices suggested it in their last few the dissenting justices in the Supreme Court, pretty much in the last three rulings that came across this week, all but said that that's the only recourse left for states, because states' rights have basically been terminated. There is no state rights, especially when you can substitute the word state for federal. That one had a big impact on the dissenting justices, and they were like, if you can start doing that, we're just federal, and we no longer have state rights. Well, yeah. Well, like I said, and I know I commented to you on this off the air. I want to go ahead and make a statement on the air, so that way, if anyone from South Carolina is hearing me, all right, this is important. So actually, put your listening ears on. If state and federal are actually interchangeable, you need to go out and send ambassadors from South Carolina to various places throughout the world and start forming your own treaties on behalf of the federal government. Okay. Yeah. Somehow I think it would end badly, but I would definitely want them to do that, just to push to the point that there is a difference between state and federal, and there should be a difference. Okay. Well, yeah, that's kind of why they do it. If we're not going to have that, is that okay? Let's make sure that was me, not Wes, talking really low. The fact of the matter is, if we go ahead and we start using that, there's only one thing, then really that does not give us the granular control that I feel is necessary. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, I'm actually disappointed in Americans in a lot of ways. especially as it comes to politics, and that is this. All right. All right. I have friends, and a lot of them are political, quote unquote, but really mostly nice.
What's nice?
Just like nothing, something off the show. It just kind of slipped out. But they really just come off like, you ever heard Foamy the Squirrel?
Yes, I have heard of him. Like,
It's basically a rantiness. All right, and that's all they do is rant, and the squirrel just rants and bitches about everything, So I have a lot of friends like that, and they get on Facebook and they write these long diatribes about political stuff. And then it's an endless battle of arguments with them, with no intelligent arguments, no, and maybe that's because of the way I like you put one on the other day on Facebook, a political post, and it was very political in nature, very controversial in nature, but you managed to word it in such a way that it didn't end up in a free for all. That's rare. That wasn't a compliment.
So you don't think it's a compliment that it didn't go into a free for all?
The fact that you had to do it in such a fashion to prevent a free for all is my issue with it.
Oh, okay.
All right. If you put on there, I support the flag. Well, that's just because you're a racist, blah, 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 blah. That is the first response you're going to get to some sort of post that is generic in nature without some long diatribe.
Right.
If you don't sugarcoat it for everybody in every way and make sure all parties included or not, it's like a George or Carlos Mencia comedian thing, where he makes sure that he insults everybody equally because somebody might get offended. All right, even in something that's all right. Eddie Murphy didn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to insult white people and black people equally just to make sure that everything was on a level playing field. He found the funny in something and he talked about it.
Actually,
same with Richard Pryor, same with Steve. Go ahead.
I disagree with you. I think what you mean to say is he shouldn't have to.
I don't think he really did, or at least not in this. I mean, there were times where he'd make white jokes and black jokes. There were times, and typically that was it. But Carlos Mencia went out of his way to, and I've seen it with Chris Titus and even people where they went out of their way to talk about Japanese and Indians and cultures that really aren't even a factor usually. Most often, if you're just slightly not racist against blacks, generally you're not racist in most people's opinions, which isn't true, but it is how it's viewed. But yeah, I find the funny in something, and that's it. If the funny is in something white, it's in something white. If it's something black, I don't need to go go extra to do that, and that's what I feel like Carlo Mencia did. That's also, what I feel like you have to do today to put a political post on Facebook. All right, I'm in for simple things. I support the flag. That lets me know Mike supports the flag. Right. Mike's against gay marriage. That lets you know Mike's against gay marriage. Why does it have to be a big tussle about every statement? I think.
Well, the problem is, and actually I've experienced this because obviously, as you're referencing the post that I made, where I kind of went through and covered quite a bit of ground, and so that way I only had to make one post about my political views and my general life views. I think that some people are genuinely offended or hurt. And actually, I think that's why they're offended, is because they feel genuinely hurt themselves, like a personal hurt from it. Sometimes that's legitimate. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it has less to do with what you said and more to do with the past that the person has had, to where anyone else who starts out a statement like that ends up with it snowballing into name calling and things like that, But I think that, unfortunately, that is on them more than it is on the person who originally posted an opinion. If the opinion is I do not agree with, or I do not believe, and not you should not, then I don't think it's your problem. You know what I'm saying? If it's, I think Mike should be stabbed in the face, then that's just what you think. Well, that's what I'm saying. Then it's just what you think. Now, if you're like, I'm going to stab Mike in the face, or everyone needs to stab Mike in the face, or else, then it becomes a problem. You know, even I'm going to stab Mike in the face. You know, if they threaten
stab Mike in the face. I'm just letting you know. You should stab Mike in the face, Wes.
See, now that's offensive to me. I like Wes. He stabbed me in the face.
Wes, will you stab Mike in the face for us?
How much money is involved?
At least $5.
That's the thing. I mean, I'll stab somebody in the face, especially if you give me enough money so that I'll be dead and I can pay their reconstructive surgery.
I'll say, oh no, see that kind of undermines it. If you're going to pay my reconstructive surgery, now if you would have said I wanted to I didn't go to jail, or I could pay for a lawyer, that would make sense. My reconstructive surgery, then why wouldn't I just skip the stabbing in the face altogether? You know?
Yeah, save a fortune.
Because that way you still suffer the pain. Know what it's like to be stabbed in the face.
There's an experience factor involved in there.
You might be able to fix my face, but I don't want to go through the event that would have my face get, messed up to begin with.
Yeah. I got you. So basically, you figure that it's the emotional trauma.
Traumatic, I think.
Yeah, I got you. See, I'm going to point out, Wes is over here being a wuss, worried about emotional trauma and stuff like that. I'd like to point that out.
Well, right, because, I'm more of a, all right, if it came down to stabbing you in the face, first, I would do it for free. I wouldn't charge nobody. That's just wrong.
I got you. Well, I don't know. But that's how you make your money. It's kind of like a porn star.
Yeah, if you're a professional stabber, then yeah, I mean, I get it, I'm Richard Ramirez, and this is what I do. I expect it, to have some sort. Or are you talking more that he does it for the art, and you talk about like a paid assassin?
Well, either one. I mean,
do they have paid assassins that don't actually kill, but more mar people? I mean, is there a job description for that? Like, look,
professional mutilator.
Yeah, like a professional mutilator, or somebody does dirty deeds, almost like dirty work, but a twisted version of it, but they don't kill.
I don't know. That would be pretty cool, though. I think that someone should be there. Well, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Really, if you think about it, while it's just the Walmart version of the same job, isn't
talking about the police? That's a special brand of ass beating.
Isn't that what a crippler does? Johnny's late with his bookie payment, so I go and I break his kneecap. That's really the same thing.
Okay, I can see that.
So yeah, and so really, I mean, it's the Walmart version. It's the difference between buying a handcrafted item or buying the mass-produced item, but it's really the same thing.
I'm more upset. I think my biggest political upset this week, besides the obvious illegal ones from the Supreme Court, is the way the abuse of corporations to take on a cause. All right, that actually bugs me a great deal. You know what I mean? Like, Walmart abandoned all its good values of pure greed to take on the cause of the rebel flag. It didn't even do that for gay rights or anything else. It just did it specifically for the rebel flag.
Right.
Okay, that kind of corporate, Amazon did it, and that's got to stop. Apple took to it. They're ripping out all the apps that may be offensive from the thing all of a sudden as a knee-jerk reaction alone. Never minding that, all right, Apple's going to pull all these apps out. Well, these app creators are a company, and there are jobs attached to that. You may not like the app, but some people have their funding in that, and that's just, that's very inconsiderate. Same with flag sales. Great, they're going to stop selling the flag, which means sales are going to go down, which means somebody's going to lose a job over it. Is it really worth all the political hype about it at a corporate level?
Well, see, that's the thing. Is actually, I think that was actually one of the dumbest polls that I've heard of from a company that does not do. Now, if it's Ben and Jerry's, is one thing, because Ben and Jerry's has always been highly politically motivated. They always sign their names to stuff that, like, they sign for the free Tukey thing and whatever. I get that. Okay, if that's stance your company wants to take, and that's the stance your company want to take. I don't really care. You may win or lose based on your selections of that. But really, Walmart has always stood above that. They have been the true American company in the sense that they do all the dirty things that we associate with American companies. Okay, I've always respected them for being that amoral, literal cog machine. They really are. And because you just don't see that. At the same time, now, over this one thing is the first time they decided to do something that's politically motivated instead of bottom dollar. This is going to be the largest surge in Rebel flag buying that you've seen in a while. Man, capitalize on it. Just charge double what you would normally do. Don't do stupid and just not sell them. Just charge more.
Right. And also, it puts Walmart in a position to be expected on other issues. Nobody expected it from Walmart. They're Walmart. They think about money. All right. Now they put themselves in a position where they're crusaders, and they need to, nobody ever boycotted Walmart the way they did other things, really. And they attempted to, but it never really worked because all they cared about was the bottom line. All right, but now they're going to go back. All right, the next great cause that comes along, polygamist or whatever it is. That next great cause that comes along. Now Walmart's going to be expected to play ball with everybody, and we're going to pull this from the shelf or that from the shelf, or add this to the shelf or that shelf. That isn't in Walmart's best interest. They put themselves in a position. A company can be politically radical, but it has to be consistent in its radicalness. Apple's always been fairly consistent in it. I'm not sure how Steve Jobs would have felt about the way his company is going today. He was pretty liberal in his policy, but not in every policy. He had a Nazi-like workforce. He expected his guys to work 90, 100 hours a week type deal.
Yeah, I say, what was it? That scene from Pirates of Silicon Valley. When that dude's sitting there, he's like 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. He's stressed and he's working, but he's thinking about packing in. And Steve Jobs comes in and he's like, "What? You're quitting right now?" And the guy's like, "I haven't slept in 3 days yet." Yeah. He's like, so what's that? He's like, so you're a quitter. And the dude's like freaking out, because he doesn't want to tell the guy, yeah, listen, I just can't do this because that's the end of the thing. But at the same time, he's literally killing himself. And Steve Jobs will have none of it, man. That's crazy.
But yeah, he was a real Nazi about his work. He didn't care about minimum work hours or whether you had family time or kind of those kind of values just didn't exist for Steve Jobs. So, but he did have a general liberal policy. Like, I do believe that he would have made the Apple gay app. I just, what I'm saying? He seemed to have a real liberal policy towards stuff like that. But as far as like workforce innovation and stuff like that, that man was not about treating his employees with any kind of dignity or respect. I believe he would have used slave labor just so he could continue. And it's because he cared about the product so much. Just like Walmart cares about the bottom line so much. That's all they care about. The bottom dollar guys. That's all they have to care about. Are we making shitloads of profit, and is the prices staying cheaper than everybody else to drive them out of business? And the thing was, it's surprising because although it became that, it wasn't what it started as. Sam Walton was a truck driver, which I would imagine he would have had. Truck drivers have been begging for unions for years. Some now do have them, but I think Sam Walton would have supported unions in Walmart.
I don't know. I guess that depends because. That was weird. Basically, I think that depends on one specific thing. The question is his want of a union more important than his feeling of low price?
Low price was important to him, but profits didn't seem important to him.
Weird. Something is feeding back.
Yeah. That's Wes's replacement. He's just going to reiterate whatever you say.
Oh, gotcha. Well, no, it was yours too.
I don't know.
Did you open the web page, or did someone open the web page to the show or something?
I didn't.
Okay, because it's gone now.
All right.
Wes, hold on. I want us to take this moment, and we're gonna stop talking for a minute, you and I, because and I have a feeling it's because Wes doesn't really get into politics much. He seems to more like wrestling, food, music, that kind of stuff. So I
Really?
think
Because
This is the
he called
problem,
my attention with
and
politics.
I'll be absolutely honest with you. I have a view on politics that the best I can say is maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't know. When it comes to politics, I don't believe in anything. Anything that we're shown, anything that we're told, anything that we hear, I think it's all spin doctrine. I think it's all fabrication. I think our presidents are figureheads and nothing more. You know, I believe it's all run by money. That we as Americans actually have absolutely no say. Whatever is popular and whatever is making the rich richer, that's what we see.
See, that's what we want from you, Wes.
Because I really don't follow politics. I don't pay attention because this is a really probably retarded statement to make, but I don't care because I don't believe that my caring is
no, actually,
worth my time.
I don't think that's actually a stupid statement to make at all. If you feel that we are more or less cogs in a machine we can't control, then obviously what would be the point in caring? All you need to know is what the newest laws are that you need to abide by so that way you don't get shot by a cop or something, and you're pretty much golden. No, I get that.
Basically.
Hey, there's no guarantee that you won't get shot by a cop.
Like the debate over the flag, it pisses me off. The gay debate, anything that's going on right now, as far as that goes, to me, bottom line is just it's a whole bunch of Boulder Dash. I'm going to go a little Glenn Beck here for a second and say that I truly miss the America I grew up in because there used to be a time when we could say what we want and not to worry about offending 8 billion people. Was I saying do I say that you should go out of your way to be offensive? No, but I think you should have the right to say what you want if that's what you believe.
Nope,
that's just the way it is. I see the posts about like the rebel flag and the thing with linking it to the General Lee and how this, that, and the other. Okay, number one, that was a fictional show. But that being said, I never viewed it as a symbol of hate. Most people I know have never viewed it as a symbol of hate. Was it once? Possibly. Now it's a symbol for good old boys. It's just things change. This is a stupid debate to have, in my opinion. Not us, the three of us, or I'm just saying for the American population, it's silly. The gay rights thing. Again, it's silliness. If they want to be married, fine. If that offends you, no one asked you to go marry someone of the same sex. And people want to bring the religious debate into that. I'm Christian, but here's the thing. This is the bottom line on that. It says in the Bible that I'm not allowed to judge people. That is not my right. That's for God to do. So again, that's taken out of my hands. It's silly to debate over.
Actually, okay.
If they're not hurting anybody, what does it matter to you?
Okay, but I want to turn that
around.
around on you for a second. I want to turn that specific, just the Christian gay thing around on you for a second. It also says that a man lying with a man is an abomination, and it also says that you're supposed to minister to those that are sick in soul. Basically, the idea that I think a lot of Christians take with it, and this is just from my interactions with them, so, if a Christian gets offended because I said it wrong,
I'm offended.
Let's say, well, no, I don't count you. You're Jesus true. But the fact of the matter is, if you're supposed to minister to those who are sick in soul, more or less, and you're supposed to help them find the right path, legalizing something that you think is an abomination would actually be counterproductive to that goal, since it will actually allot more time, open-mindedness, resources, thought to the acceptability of it. So, and now to let you know personally, like I said on my post, I could really care less one way or the other. I think that churches should not be forced to marry people. I don't really care if there's another outlet for them to do so, because there's a point in which a lot of that is political, in the sense that it's whether they can have this benefit or that benefit. I really don't care what benefits they have. That's not what I'm concerned about with it. I only concern myself mostly with social stuff.
I have to agree with you 1,000,000% on that. The church should not be forced to hold gay marriages, because it does go against their ideals. But there is nothing wrong with the justice of the peace.
Right.
My dad performed marriage, and he was a minister. He wasn't a preacher. It can still be done. So no, you shouldn't force someone to do something against their religious beliefs. I'm just saying if these people aren't hurting you,
Yeah.
there's really no reason for us to be in their business.
Well, like I said, while I actually agree with you on that, like I said, I was just asking you how, in your framework, that fits the fact that you're supposed to minister people away from the evil, and according to the Bible, if lying with a man lying with a man is an abomination, how that fits into that same construct of who cares because I can't judge.
For me personally, how I feel about that is that I'll tell you that I think you shouldn't do this, that maybe, this would be a better lifestyle choice for you.
I got you. I call that the Mike Hudgens. Oh, hold on.
Hey, look, you don't like what he has to say. You don't have to cut him
Your
off. Don't.
call will not be completed because the party you are...
Go to second. Although I wonder how if he recognized that it ended or he's just basically went the whole
I do it all the time. It's okay. But I actually, on the flag thing, I want to hear Waylon Jennings. I'd like to hear their, especially with the Dukes of Hazzard stuff.
I gotcha.
Sometimes, all right. A symbol has but what meaning we give it. In the South is given the flag one true meaning that seems to be universal among all.
All right. Yeah, I was saying, sorry about that. I guess you disconnected or something. Josh accused me of hanging up on you on purpose, but
That seems to happen all the time. Actually, that's what my roommate said, was that as soon as I got heated, you hung up on me.
No.
No, go ahead.
But no, what I was saying, though, is that I may tell you these things because, they're against the Christian beliefs, but it is not my right to force that law upon you.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It is a religion as beliefs. It's not the way that our nation was set up to be run. I cannot force those beliefs on you. That is your right at the end of the day to make that decision. I can only tell you what I feel about that decision.
Yeah, like I said, no, actually, I think that's a very understandable way to go about it. I call that the Mike Hudgens grammar method, because when I see someone misuses a word or something, or misspells a word or something like that, I usually tell them one time, so that way they're aware of the distinction. But then if they continue to want to use it that way, then that's up to them. It doesn't really bother me as long as I follow what they mean. I don't get all hung up in pedantry.
Ah.
I'm starting to think he's going out. All right. I think you do it. That way it kills time on the show to make things make things last longer.
No, actually, I want to get back on the music, which we've gotten straight so far. We were like 30 minutes off of music now.
All right. Which, like I said, which I don't know how much of what I said you caught, but in any case, like I said, I have a similar view when it comes to education.
Just nod and smile. Just nod and smile. No.
I tell someone if they're using a word wrong or if they're spelling it wrong once, if they continue to use it, I don't get caught up in the pedantry. So therefore, if they want to continue using it that way, as long as I know what they mean by it, I know that I told them the right way. If they want to go the wrong way, then that's fine. It's also the way I actually view my beliefs. Like I said, that's why I called that my only political post. Like I said, it wasn't even just so people knew my beliefs. 'Cause I normally don't talk about my beliefs. I usually don't tell people about them. It just got to the point where, Josh actually had a problem with Mad Hatter, a nerdcore artist, early on when he first, and I had met this guy. I knew he's a cool guy. I know that he's a cool guy, but he kept getting incensed about things, and then he started making these stupid blanket statements like, if you watch Fox News, then I don't want you on my feed. If you don't think that this is blah blah blah, then, and I'm like, wow, that's really messed up that you would feel that way just because someone has a different opinion than you. It's not enough. It's not enough that you don't want them not to talk about it with you. You insist that they not even be around you. They can even be in your vicinity, your proximity. I was like, it seems really harsh. Well, then I had another friend who did it about a month ago, and once again, I've met the guy. I went to his freaking wedding reception. He's a really nice guy, and he's, if you talk to him in person, just like Mad Hatter, you talk to him in person, they don't act like that. They might get heated, they might get upset about something, but I don't think they would ever judge you like that. And yet, on there, once again, he did the same thing. He's like, if you don't believe that gay marriage should be legalized, then get the fuck off my posts. And I'm like, really? Wow, that's the line, huh? Just, you don't agree with me? I don't want you around me. And I started getting worried. I'm like, if this keeps up, and because I thought eventually it would level out, it's just because people get heated, and I get that. But it's just getting worse and worse to where even people who've never been like that are starting to act like that. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit there and ditch friends because we have a difference of opinion. So I figure if I posted my stuff, they have the choice to talk to me about it, they have the choice to ignore it, or they have the choice to delete me. That's up to them, you know. But then it gets done on my terms, and not having to sit there and worry that because I have a difference of opinion. And actually, it brought out a lot of good too. I will say that there were people that honestly I anticipated being on the delete list. Given some of my views. And I'm going to go ahead and call out one of them specifically. Stephanie Messenger. I want to say that her name was originally Steven. She's transitioning, I think is what it's called. And if I doubt she's listening, but if anyone happens to get that back to her and I said it wrong, like I said, we've actually had a long discussion today, specifically about the fact that I do not know the right words for specific things in that specific construct or ideology. And there's no offense meant by it. It's just that the way I understand it, I'm just finding a word that describes it. But I think she's transitioning, and she's Stephanie. And we had a long discussion. What I said apparently about the transgender, my view on gender identity, and gender roles really bothered her. Okay, and so we talked it out. And despite the fact that I really started to look like I was on that delete list, but we talked it out, and luckily, you know, we did what you should do in that situation. You know, we now understand each other. We may not agree. We may agree on certain things. We may not agree on others. But it doesn't stop us from being friends. It doesn't stop us from anything. I only have one problem actually with it at all on her end, which is there is a distinction I make when I'm listening to certain songs because, like, the music video for Backtrack, at that point, she was a guy. And so I have trouble when I think of that song, I say he, and now it's a she. So now when she sings the song on stage, it's a she. That right there aggravates me because of in my head, which time frame am I looking at? And it really messes with me. It's almost like looking at a parallax distortion.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people on there that actually have said really good things. And it actually kind of restored my faith because for a while I was really dreading getting on Facebook just to see all those vitriolic posts, not over the politics itself, but over the way that they feel other people should treat politics. And so it was nice to see that turn around and see the other side of it.
All right, I've been called until the flag thing. I've been called a Democrat for like the last straight year because I debate the police issues. All right, I was like, really me of all people, but whatever. All right, but at some point there's inherent right and wrong that you believe in, and that's your line, and everybody makes that line. All right. I think that killing people unjustly, just to me, that's not. I don't believe in blind faith in the police. I don't believe in blind faith in veterans. I think that veterans are people. I think police are people. I think military are people, just like anybody else with many different shows. And some people can be downright cynical, cruel, and everything else. So I don't revere them in one way or another unless I know them individually. I don't say, oh, I support I support veterans, or I don't know these veterans. They could have been very bad veterans. You know what I'm saying? Imagine a modern day social media back at, in the Civil War. Imagine how that would have exploded when you supported the wrong veterans. It could have become very controversial back then. I can only imagine if there was a Facebook during the Civil War, or a Facebook during integration, or even suffrage, and that's one of the struggles we deal with today. Everybody's so interconnected that it's good for one way and it's bad in another way. And it's good because we can talk about things with so many diverse of people. We can also offend very easily against that same bunch of people.
That's the part of it that's always rough for me, is because our family tends to be very humor-oriented. It tends to be very honesty and blunt honesty oriented. And like I said, we don't get caught up in minutia of little things. Like I said, like the terminology that I was using that bothered Steffo. Nothing was meant by it, and had basically she did the same thing in reverse. I wouldn't have been offended because the terminology was wrong. It greatly offended her. But I don't get that. I don't understand that mentality of that small of a thing being an issue.
What was the issue? Did they use the wrong word?
I was using words incorrectly, and apparently I was using words that were considered kind of like taboo or offensive words. given that context. And I didn't realize it because, like I said, I've one of the words specifically, I'll give you this, is what they call a trap. And I get where it could be offensive.
Oh,
because
I used that in a positive light. I didn't know that was a negative.
That's what I told her. I said the fact is, I was like, most of the people that I know that would fall into the classification trap actually seem to embrace the word. I've heard
Especially
people
if you know what it is.
right. Exactly. And so I was like, I get where it can be offensive when you see when you see like it started out as a meme using the Admiral Akbar thing. It's a trap for people that are guys that look like girls. But like I said, it's self-referential. That'd be like me saying that I think that black people that use the word nigga to describe themselves, that shouldn't be used because they aren't allowed to define their own terms. The trap thing, like I said, that's something that the people who I've heard it, I didn't even know it could be offensive unless it was used as that meme. I did not know that was.
I only related to porn terminology, so. I mean, at what point can you be offensive about porn terminology? I mean, there's such a diverse thing there where, if you're looking at porn and you look at like the mass amounts of porn that's out there,
right. I'm sure there's right
porn that for some reason it can't be too racist because the people that are watching it that would get offended by it, if they would get offended by the terms used in it, they probably shouldn't watch it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's it's like being offended by gay porn. In my opinion, is one of those things. Is like, well, what the hell were you doing watching it in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I said. I told her I was like I didn't realize the word was offensive. I had no clue. Like I wasn't saying that to be facetious. I actually think the concept of a trap is cool. When I see a picture of one, I'm like, dude, wow. I'm like, I never would have guessed. To me,
think girl. I mean,
well, no, the ones I'm talking about actually make Jared Leto look like a dude.
I know. I just have to rag the Jared Leto.
But I mean, it makes him look like a manly man, But that's what I'm saying. So to me, I told her I was like, I just had no clue. But I also, like I said, I don't get that mentality of those. Like I have been called. Well, name it. I mean, well, I'm sure actually everyone here pretty much. Josh is probably the only one here who actually would not have the full understanding. Because me and Wes both grew up fat, so I'm sure that he's had people, say offensive terminology or whatever about being fat, and I think that even fat is.
Sir, I got fat the right way, like a normal person. You stay skinny, and then you get married, and then you get fat. That's how it works, sir. You don't pre-get fat. No.
But to me, I mean, I think that actually technically fat is considered an offensive word. Now, why? Screw it.
It is. I don't know how many times when people are talking to me, they'll go to say something about fat people, and it's like, hey, this person was a big person.
Right,
That's what it is. It's a big person. How you're no longer allowed to say naked. It's not little person. That's what fat people have become.
Big persons. Got it. And what's that, Josh?
I said fat the adjective or fat the noun. Because fat the noun shouldn't be offensive to anybody. That's what I get on my bacon.
Right. No, I think they're referring to the adjectival version. Well, that's like when I was in the hospital. I went in the hospital, I had pneumonia, and it really beat the hell out of me. And I ended up in the hospital for like 2 or 3 days over pneumonia. And when I was in there, one of the nurses came in, and I noticed that I was on a diabetic diet. And so I was like, why am I on a diabetic diet? And she goes, well, she's like, we automatically put that on there. I'll put you on there if you're heavy. I'm like, okay. I got it. I'm fat, so therefore you guys want to make sure that y'all don't actually contribute to me possibly getting diabetes because I'm already at a health risk. She goes, no. She's like, you're not fat. She goes, no, I've seen fat people before. You're not fat. And I'm like, no, I'm fat. Trust me.
I've seen fat people before. That seems offensive.
Right. Well, that's like no, it's okay.
I've seen some fat people. You are not fat.
That's fine. Me, you or Wes. We're all three of different sizes, but I guarantee you we're all fucking fat.
Exactly. And I was like, that's kind of like it's okay. Some of my best friends are fat.
Right.
Yeah. So I can use that word. Some of my best friends are fat. It's like but I'm like, dude, what is it? Okay. That level of sensitivity to me is just ridiculous. Like I'm fat.
Hold on. I have black friends, IQ people like that, people I revere. But I would never be like, hey, I can say nigger because my friends are what? Niggers? No, they're not. They're just
Right.
black people. So how can you get away with an offensive term like that? That's bullshit.
You know what? That is actually a beautiful point. I've never thought of it in that light, but that is actually an excellent point. You're right, Josh, because obviously, if it's okay for me to say a word that actually is offensive to them because I have friends that apparently, if I'm using that word offense like that, and I'm saying it's okay because I have friends that meet that qualification, then apparently that's exactly what. Oh my God, I never thought of it like that. Is genius. Like if they're black, then it'd be like it's okay for me to say black because my friends are black. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah, no, fair enough. I like that.
Yeah, I just think.
I was at a friend's house, and there were a bunch of people over, and we were watching Tosh.0, and they were in a fat guy on an airplane, and Tosh said something that was just hilarious. I don't remember now what it was. But you could see everybody in the room hitch up their chest like they were about to start laughing, and then eyes were cutting towards me. Like everyone was afraid to laugh at the fat joke. So I was like, hey, that guy looks like family. And everybody starts laughing and then knew it was okay to laugh. But that to me was kind of sad.
Yeah.
That these people weren't going to laugh at something that was
That's okay.
very
I'm gonna
funny
start using this one.
because they were afraid of offending the black guy. I mean, the black guy. Wow.
Hey, it's okay
Actually,
for me to.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, it's okay for me to cook Jews in the oven because some of my friends are Jewish. Now, how ridiculous does that argument sound?
Well, that's like I knew this guy, and I won't drop his name since this isn't in a nice light. But basically, I knew this guy when I was working at a place one time, and basically he was all tricked out redneck style, and he was don't get me wrong, he was a cool guy for the most part.
Oh, this is a Dave story, isn't it?
No. But there was some issues that I had with his personality. For example, a lot of times he would tell black jokes or use epithets for blacks, but he would always do this thing where he'd lower his voice and his eyes would glance around when he did. I'm like, dude, either you feel that it's funny enough and worthy enough to say that loud, proud, and regardless, right, or regardless of who's in front of you, or you don't. Like a perfect example of that was I had this friend at the same place, and he give me a second. He was Puerto Rican, and I used to pick on him because he actually had very dark skin for Puerto Rican. I used to tell him he wasn't Puerto Rican; he must have been from somewhere else. And so we'd get in this back and forth, and we would use racial epithets towards each other. And so, like, even when we're out on the bed, one day my boss is standing in there, and me and him are going back and forth, and I'm just calling him like, hey, listen here, Spick. He's like, listen here, you freaking honky, back and forth or whatever, and my boss, he about loses it. He's like, you can't do that. I'm like, why? What does it matter? It's like, he's like, man, you know how much trouble you can get in for that? He's like, if he ain't, I'm like, dude, did you hear what he said back? I'm like, the fact is, that's how he and I talk to each other, man. And he said that at the same time, he actually is out on the bed with there's this crew. There were these three like very Jamaican Rastafarian black guys that worked the bed, and it was just like this weird place out in the corner where no one went. And he was out there working on their stuff, and he said, man, me and him doing that back and forth had those guys rolling. Man, he said they could not stop themselves. They were just sitting there. They weren't even working at that point. They were just sitting there literally on the ground laughing their asses off. And I was like, that's a shameful mentality. These guys got it. You know, those three guys got it. But that my boss in the office, man, he's sitting there just freaking out, not even taking the context into account, not even taking the fact that obviously I wouldn't do it if Giovanni wasn't okay with it. It was just how me and him interacted. We were friends. We actually hung out together even outside of work, and we enjoyed that back and forth, and we liked messing with the people around us by doing it. And
I would have made fun of him, but mostly because his name was Giovanni.
That's actually a pimp name. That is actually a pimp name. I like that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like a clothing line or something.
I like it. But I just thought it was funny because, like I said... go ahead, man. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, kind of, like, to me, kind of along the same lines. I was hanging out with a girl, and her best friend was a gay dude. Well, we showed up at her house one evening, and he's standing there with his boyfriend.
Oh. I did not do it.
You liar. You shut him up every time.
Well, he hung up last time on me.
Oh.
I'm gonna tell him, You definitely need to get.
I can just start listening to y'all on the podcast rather than stay on the phone. That's not a problem.
I say, man, we at some point we need to get you a freaking internet connection and a computer so you can Google Hangout with us. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Yeah.
But so anyway, what the saying was, go up at her house, and there's her best friend and his boyfriend and 2 or 3 of their friends who are all gay guys. And we got out of the car, and I looked, and I said, well, what is this, a Marge? Well, her friend and his boyfriend laughed. You know, they understood. The other 3 just kind of stood there like, what does he mean? So her friend turns around and explained it, and they all got offended.
Yeah, see,
you know, not the original 2 that laughed, but the other 3 got offended. And I'm like, really? You know, why get offended over that?
There's stuff I get offended on. I get highly offended about stupidity. All right, stupidity bothers me, and when I mean like, all right, when somebody gets really stupid about things, like what was a good example? Misusing words and then getting offended by the misuse of the words. All right. That stuff bothers me.
Actually, I pointed that out to someone when basically there was a YouTube post and the person insulted the other person for the way they actually had a bunch of misspellings and stuff in their stuff, so I pointed it out to them. And I was like, that's the thing that's stupid that you're gonna sit there and badmouth this guy's intellect instead of the content of his post when you're sitting here and you're no better off. That's just ridiculous to me. I think that's stuff that has to be kind of taken with a grain of salt. Although I am going to say something to the contrary. I'm also going to say that while I do not get offended by a lot of things, I do think that it's different than turn a blind eye when you do not like something. Now, that should be something in your purview. For example, if I'm walking down the street, look at this.
Is that really you or him?
I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not sure what the heck is going on because I just obviously on my knowledge just shows it suddenly disconnects.
But yeah, stupid posts tend to bother me a great deal.
Well, let me go ahead and say this one, which is what I was getting at is for example, all right, if I'm walking down the street and there's a guy holding hands or something like that, fine. Whatever, it's out in the open. I don't have any purview there. That's not my place. And so whether I like it or not, it really has no bearing on what they're doing. Unless they're breaking some kind of a law, However, at my house, bring my kids, I do believe that your house is something that you protect. So therefore, one time, one of my wife's old friends from school and his boyfriend come over. And they come over and they're hanging out and stuff. And his boyfriend is like flaming, like honestly, I'm pretty sure the kid was as hot as the sun. He was just like overemphasizing, hey girlfriend, acting like that, hanging all over the dude and stuff like that. And they want to hold hands or something, I still wouldn't have even had a problem. But I mean, like literally just draping himself all over himself. And I'm like, listen, I'm like, you've got to go. And he's like, what? I'm like, I don't want my kids seeing that right now. I was like, not at this age. I was like, I'm not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm like, I was like, you go. And so the other guy starts to go too. I'm like, dude, just to let you know, I'm like, if you guys want to come back and he wants to behave himself, I have no problem with that. I was like, I don't care that he wants to show that you're his guy. I do care the extent to which I was like, I don't even show that much public display of affection around my kids. I really don't feel comfortable with that happening. I was like, however, to let you know, you did nothing wrong. I have no problem with the way you interacted, the way you handled yourself. I have no issue with that whatsoever. And so you're always allowed to come back. And he ended up coming back later on. We ended up working out together. But like I said, and I know that probably seems hypocritical to a lot of people, but the one thing is understanding what is acceptable to other people, or outside of your place, and the other one is where you get to have your personal beliefs. And so I think there is a distinction to be made between those two situations.
Okay, I'm okay with where's that line where your family begins and the rest of the world ends? I can see an argument in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my private thing. If we were talking religion and not homosexuality or anything else, nobody would question you not having your bar mitzvah at my house or some sort of prayer. You know what I'm saying?
Or actually,
Because-
let's go ahead and reverse that. The people on the other side can see it. The people who disagree with what I just said. If you're gay and because of that you've gotten a lot of flack from the church over the years, and so therefore you don't want your kids being raised in an environment where basically they judge people like the people from the church do, as far as homosexuality is concerned. Then if someone came to your house, you would expect them to mind that. Be like, dude, don't bring that crap into my house. It would be the same thing.
Okay, now let's get off of gays. Yeah, that was funny. All right, and let's get on to the music politics that I actually want to discuss. So we have
Okay.
about an hour left in. All right. One was we were discussing earlier before I got interrupted about the politics of music. And we've discussed it before, like bands like Pussy Riot, people that there is just as much about the politics as there are music, and in some ways more. I mean, they set jail cells all the time just to push politics. They are musical activists, kind of like a musical comedian would be. You know what I'm saying? But in the sense they're activists. All right. Do you think that has a greater effect on society's change than, do you think because it's confounded with music, something that most teenagers can relate to? Most people have some sort of music that they can bind themselves to. I know the punk bands of the 80s, they were politically radical, but it didn't have much effect on society.
I think that that it actually has an effect on the minds and therefore on the long term. But I don't think that it has a direct impact. Basically, you take an influential band that has a very strong message, agnostic front, or like you said, one of the early hardcore bands or the early punk bands, the anarchists of the 70s and stuff. I think that helps free people up in the long term for what their views are. But I don't think that it makes a direct impact, because obviously the hippie movements and stuff like that did influence the parents and even the next generation and future generations. But I don't think that it was the same as saying, okay, from now on, everyone gets to drop acid or smoke pot whenever they want. I don't think it's that kind of effect, but rather it opens people's minds up at a young age to other ideas and other concepts that as they grow up, they're going to see those from that perspective.
Okay, now, our parents were raised on the Beatles.
You didn't want to see if Wesley had an answer for that?
Oh, I didn't know he was still online. I thought he still fell off. Yeah, Wes. I didn't know you were there.
I keep reconnecting him. As soon as he drops, I can reconnect him, because I'm not sure what the hell it is, but I don't want him accusing me of having hung up on him.
After it happens like 40 or 50 times, I'm kind of done. I'm floating here. I kind of get afraid to start talking, because every time I do, I get hung up on.
Okay, well then, if you want to cut out early, man, I understand that. But if that's the case, then we really do need to get you like I said, we do need to get you a stable internet connection and a computer, so that way we can make sure that this doesn't keep happening. Because obviously, I don't know whether
I'm
Jordan or
working
mine.
on it.
So.
I don't even know if they have. Do they have DSL where you're at yet?
I actually do have to get on. But before I do that, I want to tell a quick story that's kind of related but unrelated to the music question. It's more towards the politics, religion, and the way that everyone is trying to separate themselves now. Be it politics, religion, race, what have you. Suddenly, we're all trying to split ourselves once again, and it's to me like everything else just very silly. The story I want to tell is a couple nights ago, I was at karaoke at a TGI Fridays. Now, at my table, there were 2 Christians, a Wiccan, and 2 agnostics. Sitting next to us was a table of young black kids. I'm guessing they might have been 18, 19 years old. From there, the rest of us, were anywhere between 25 and 40. Now, the entire time my group sat there, we had a great time together, and
Hello? No, he's not off. He's not off. He's not disconnected. That's why I'm saying hello, is because, like, literally... Oh, there it goes. I was saying...
Sorry, I just thought it was funny because he was just complaining about that. He didn't get through that
Your
one.
call will not be completed because the party you
Okay, I'll finish it off for him, okay?
No, let's go ahead and we'll do that, and then he can go ahead and...
Finish the story for him, okay?
Okay. All right, and that's
Well,
what
someone said,
that was weird.
Said all of us who, are separated by, incredible differences in beliefs, and then you had the two tables that were separated by not only age but by color, and we're all sitting there together, and we're having a great time together, and we're singing songs together, and interacting with one another, and no one was trying to, stab each other in the face. No one was trying to set off a bomb. No one was fighting and saying someone was, racist or zealot or anything else. We were just people having a good time together. When did that stop happening? That's the thing. I've been used to my whole life. Now all of a sudden, everybody gets pissy over the littlest thing and tries to separate all of us. It's bizarre to me, and it's really making me a sad person.
No, actually, I agree with you. I think that it's I think that the problem is that we don't have any ways of, and I'll just go ahead and hit him up on Facebook, Josh. And I'm not gonna bother ringing him back up because obviously, like he said himself, he had to get off anyway. To let everyone know, yeah, we're gonna try to figure out what's going on with that and get that taken care of, because actually we do love having Wes on the show. But he said he had to go anyway, so because it's actually almost the time that he would have normally gotten off. But anyway, yeah, I actually completely agree with him, though. I think that, there was a time in which, even regardless of where you fell, it didn't stop you from liking other people. And no matter where you fell, it didn't stop you from being civil to other people or enjoying a time. And that was, funny enough, that was at a time in which there was more polarity between groups. More actual polarity, not perceived polarity, but rather, at the time, like I said, there was a time in which if you were gay, that was actually considered a mental insanity or a mental disability. There was a time when black people could vote. And yet, oddly enough, during those times and even after those times, but up until recently, there was actual more respect for the individual, regardless of what group they identified with. So even, I'm not saying everyone, yes, for anyone out there who happens to fall into some subgroup or minority group or whatever, and you're going to be like, well, that's not true because there's always been racism. Yes, there's always been racism. But there is a distinction between the racism that you see now and the racism you saw in 1950. All right. Ask someone who was around in 1950, and they will tell you the difference between what it was like.
I think it was more of a social pecking order than a downright, I'm quite aware that my grandparents, being raised in the Great Depression, probably used the term nigger as a universal word in their vocabulary, but probably never used it offensively to somebody, or if they did, it was very rare. I think it was more the social pecking order of things that was offensive back then. The decline in things like quality schools. You know what I'm saying? Those would be the racial disparities that happen.
The stupid separate but equal stuff, but basically, so unfortunately that's true. A lot of the blacks, especially in southern states, got kind of a bum deal when it came to education, because basically they got substandard teachers and stuff like that because it wasn't so equal.
I won't say substandard teachers because they had their own teachers, but I think
that right there is one time when I say a cycle. Materials. Well, no, that's actually one time when I will say that cycles present itself. For example, first set of teachers get the first set of kids that go in. You're a black student, you get black teacher. That black teacher was already raised in a place where they had substandard black teachers, and prior to that, they still had substandard materials. So therefore, you got people who learned substandardly under substandard conditions, and then they're the ones who taught the next group. So the increase towards equality was not. It was not a straight shot. There was kind of a learning curve to be had there. It'd be like if I'm the first person to build a computer and then I go to teach you to build a computer. Well, that's not the same as teaching someone to build a computer nowadays, where we've advanced so far that it's practically nothing to build a computer.
But I would consider it'd be like this. Okay, all right. Take something of value, like England's or any other country, but us position on soccer. All right, we have a deficiency in soccer players because of long-term generational. They've been playing it for years. They've embraced it really well. Our country has not embraced it in such a manner, that they have. We enjoy baseball and football more, and so we are less dominant in that thing.
I agree. Okay, I'm following you so far.
Okay, so you got education. It wasn't that all white people had education, because a lot of the Irish descendants they didn't have reading ability, comprehension, or anything like that. I think it was more the materials available to them that prevented some of the educational gaps that persisted.
Well, right,
but not the teachers themselves.
Well, no. What I mean by the teachers themselves is not that they were substandard people, but rather that because of they also were in the same situation, what they were taught, and thus what they can impart was substandard, not their ability, but rather their skill. And that comes once again. You have the substandard materials. You're teaching with substandard materials. And then, so that class goes on, and the teachers in that class go in and teach the next class, and so on and so forth. It's a slower building process to make quality, much like what you're talking about. Even if we embraced suddenly, like now, we embrace soccer the way that England embraced soccer, okay? It's going to take a few generations of soccer players before we start getting on par with them. Why? Okay. Not because we have substandard material, but because we have a substandard learning curve. Because we are so far behind the curve to start, that
we don't have the best coaches, we don't have that. Okay, I can see how.
That's what I'm referring to, right? Yeah, and now, like I said, and that is where the integration of schools was beneficial, is because then we're all learning from the same substandard teachers, regardless.
Yeah, but I don't think. No, this is just an argument. I don't prefer it, but if separate equal was truly equal, I don't think that would have presented any more of a problem. The problem is that it never works out that way.
Right? Yeah.
Well, integration didn't do its justice either. It just did a better justice than separate than equal would have ever done.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't saying that what happened was optimal. I was just saying that unfortunately the way that it pans out is separate but equal never is, and that's why they eventually realized. And actually, even
the equal part is never truly equal.
Right. Well, I'm saying that's actually what the people at the time actually said. The people who were for integration, they didn't claim that there was a problem with separation, although some of them may have felt so. The argument they used was, this isn't equal. Right. And that's the problem, is that if this is supposed to be separate but equal, and you can't give us separate but equal, then why don't you just make it equal and then not worry about the separate part? Well, and that was actually the argument that was posed for that, was because, their goal may have been the integration and purpose and not the equality part of it. But the argument they gave was, in fact, that it was not separate but equal. It was separate but substandard and claiming to be equal.
Okay, we have... did you cue that up for me, Mike?
No, I haven't even pulled it up because, like I said, I didn't even see it because obviously I had that downside so I could keep hitting play on...
since we have a bunch of Russian fans, and they are popular in Russia... I actually want to do the musical debate we haven't done yet. A Pussy Riot song. We talk about them a lot on here because they're politically Russian activists. You know what I'm saying? They are in the fight for gay rights. I figure this is appropriate week, damn sure, to play their music on our show. So I want to play at least one Pussy Riot song before we close out the show.
Is that something they were actually known for? Is fighting specifically for gay rights?
Not specifically for, but primarily, it's the hot topic, but...
I was just asking because your statement of this being a gay rights week is a good thing to do. That's why I was asking this, because I didn't know. Let's see here. Give me a second.
They're actually a feminist punk band, but they've touched on many topics, gay rights being one of them.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know enough about the band.
Well, they're a women's rights activist, but a lot of that transitions over.
I gotcha. So yeah, so like I said, no, that's fine. I wasn't sure, and so I wanted.
They include they're opposed to dictatorship, which is what they feel Russia is today. They're opposed to. They support LGBT. They support feminism. You know what I'm saying? So, I figured that was a. And they're activist and very political, which kind of fits the motif of the show for sure today. If there ever was a point, this would be the point.
Yeah, it's sad is, like I said, as you know from me, Josh, you know that I am not a fan of worrying about politics and stuff like that as a general rule. I think that today, though, there's not really much of a way that you're going to escape it, which I think is why I'm like, screw it, might as well just go ahead and talk about it, because I think regardless, it's what's going to be on everyone's mind. Regardless of your views on it, I think that it'd be really hard to escape it right now. Lord knows, despite trying, I couldn't. So,
Right.
let's see. All right.
Well, Russia has a different take on protests in general. They generally, it's not just on gay rights or anything like that. Hooliganism is one of the things they refer to it as, and they refer to Greenpeace protesting oil rigs, whatever.
Right.
They have a big take on that. You know what I'm saying? There was a Greenpeace was doing a Russian oil rig protest. Well, protesting on an American oil rig is a little different than protesting on a Russian oil rig. And these are assortment of people from certain countries. Now, Russia went a lot lighter on them in the punishment than they would have if it was their own private citizens.
Right.
But because it was Greenpeace, they gave them some jail time. But they didn't exactly do everything in such fashion. So, they just don't view protests in the way that we view protests. That's probably why most of theirs end up in some sort of civil war.
All right, let me go ahead. I am actually going to play this. This is actually Pussy Riot. Putin lights up the fire.
I think it's Putin.
Can you hear that? Because I can't hear it.
Oh, nobody can.
Государство сильнее времени! Чем больше арестов, тем больше счастья! А каждый арест с любовью сексиста! Проснувшим как груди живот! Нас нельзя закупорить ящик, стергачий гнезд нам лучше чаще! Путин зажигает костры революции! Но скучно и страшно тыквит в тишине! Вникай вперед, как гнилая рябина! Что не срок много лет, то предмет для эволюции! Страна идет, на улице все растет! Страна идет, страна идет! А Путин идет! Арестуй по 6 мая весь город! 7 лет тому, дай 18! Запрети кричать! Возьмите в жены под Лукашенко! Страна идет! Страна идет! Страна идет! Страна идет! А Путин идет! Страна идет! На улице свет зажжет! Страна идет! Страна идет! А Путин идет!
All right, and as I said, that is Pussy Riot.
First, I want to apologize to any viewers because we don't know what the song says. Therefore, if it was something offensive in there that did offend somebody, I don't give a fuck.
That's what I was gonna say. Is now what now? I guess because it's politics week. That's why we're you're worried about offending people. I was like, you don't remember all the other things that we said. I believe that one night we actually probably offended pretty much every group that exists.
But I will apologize to the fans if we do get banned in their country because of that, and that might have be a responsibility.
Fair enough. That is actually something. Yeah.
I don't care what
2013. They were released in 2013, so I doubt that we're gonna fall into too much problem. But I can't guarantee it. I almost played. They had a different song that I had almost played.
I don't know what the YouTube Russia policies are. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, we're not banned there, even when we get banned here from Sunny BMG or whatever.
So vice versa.
I don't know. You know, they might have an anti-pussy riot thing in Russia. Who knows? I don't know. I know that song was about Putin personally, so offense to the president could cause ramifications that I don't want our fans to feel. Now, as far as, like I said, if I've offended somebody, I don't give a fuck. I never do.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, I get you. I get that. Yeah. I say, now I was just confused because all of a sudden you were apologizing for stuff, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I was like, that's not something we do. Like, we'll apologize to individual people if something we said offended them personally. I was like, I've never heard. Yeah, we're not. I don't draw blanket apologies. What is it? James said something on my thing. He's like, I get it. He's like, and I think that he's like, if taking down the flag is gonna make people's day easier, then fine, whatever. He's like, I love the flag. He's like, but I don't really care if it's on there. He's like, it makes no difference to me because it, whether it's there or not, I don't need it there as a reminder of why that flag is awesome and why the South is awesome. He's like, at the same time, he's like, I wish people would stop being such pussies. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, exactly. I was like, I agree with you. I was like, I don't really care, about the flag on the courthouse, but at the same time, I agree with you 100%, James. I wish people were not such pussies, and that sometimes, at least, honestly, if people could even let half the stuff that bothers them go and just say, okay, well, we have a different opinion. That's the end of that statement. Boom, problem solved. Or at least
James made the best statement ever about the gay marriage thing. He's like, gay people are idiots. Because they have the perfect excuse not to get married, and they pass it up. He's like, hey, baby, I'd marry you, sorry, but it's illegal.
Exactly. No, I agree. Well, like I said,
I see why the gay women might be fighting for the right, but gay men should have been like, this is utopia. Sex, no marriage, come on here, But I agree. Hypersensitivity, that's why, I'm sorry if I misled everybody to think I was about to apologize.
There you go. That's an apology I can get behind. I am okay with that apology.
I'm not fucking apologizing for shit. I don't give a damn. But I do want to apologize to fans if we do get banned, because we could even get a lifetime ban. I just don't know what Russia's policies are. And, what I'm saying, on YouTube or whatever,
What's the...
seditious speech against the president in some countries is considered almost like blasphemy. You know what I'm saying?
Let's say what is the new version of the KGB? I can never remember the name of it.
FSB.
FSB. Yeah, FSB is gonna come put a bullet in your head. I was like, that's a pretty lifetime ban right there.
Good luck, Russians. That's the one thing about my location is you'll spot a Russian. Even he doesn't even blend in with the white folk. You know what I'm saying? He's not. Yeah,
that's funny. I think the general climate here. I don't. Because hell, I'm pretty sure that I know people who.
Well, it's not even a race thing. It's if you're using the word y'all when you come into where I come from, they're gonna spot you right away.
Well, I was just saying, I'm pretty sure that. Yeah, I was saying. Funny enough, I'm actually pretty sure that I know people that are so stuck in the past that they'll be like, "That's one of them commies." Oh, you want to keep the Cold War going, huh? Well, I got something for you, because I'm pretty sure that I know people who get upset about everything that exists. But I think that I think I'm gonna have a new shtick. I think my shtick is actually gonna be getting offended over things that are innocuous.
Well, that was like
don't like those guys. I don't
Who
like. No,
else?
I'm not talking about the French. I'm just talking about actual frogs. I think I'm gonna be offended by when people have pictures of tree frogs and stuff. And maybe
In
the color.
Florida, they offend me. They get in my shower and shit. It's like, dude, you're like a fucking peeping Tom up in this bitch.
And I'm thinking the color blue. That's a decent color. I
Hey,
think.
fuck you. I like that color. Pick a different
Pastel.
one.
There, pastels. I think I'm gonna be
I don't
offended
even
by
know pastel this, so I'm good on that one.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'm a man. There's 7 fucking colors,
Nope.
and that's it.
So, well, that's actually, that's and like I said, I hate to rehash this, but this I hope this doesn't end up inciting more problems, because actually, like I said, when it comes to Steffo, I really do think she's awesome. She's a really nice person. She's, like I said, I'm glad we were able to talk it through. And there's little things though that I keep coming back to in my head, and I'm like, like in kind of like the color thing. To me, I just see a limited amount of colors. All right, I don't know what the difference between ecru is, or I don't know the difference between. I think I don't even I can't even think of a color offhand. The hell is mauve? Mauve is a color, right? It's spelled mauve, but apparently it's pronounced mauve. I think it's a red, right? Yeah, okay. But I would not. I mean, sometimes I'll notice there's my eyes are good enough that sometimes I'll notice, oh, that red's slightly off. I didn't know it was a color. I didn't know they had a name for it. Oh, that's mauve. I'm like,
Steffo, can I get upset if I don't recognize shoes or anything like that?
No, that's
I
not.
don't recognize them in my own life.
That's not what I was. That's not what I'm saying. Because I don't know what her personal take is. Actually, I'll you didn't recognize her shoes. Her shoes were awesome. At least the ones she had at Robo-Raw's reception. Those shoes were badass looking. They were awesome. No, the thing is like I was when I said on my post about how I see in kind of this binary thing of male and female, and I'm not even talking about gender so much as gender role. I guess not even gender identity, just gender role. Like, I don't care if you see yourself as more feminine or as more masculine, or very feminine, very masculine. And I do see finite graduations, although I didn't add the third one. Technically, I do see an androgyny as well. But to me, that's really where I kind of like, that's all I can see. And it's not personal. It's not like I have a problem with someone who, what is the term for it? I think they call it gender queer, where they're somewhere in the spectrum. They don't really try to identify, and they don't really. It's like gender agnostic, more or less. They don't really try to me, that's androgynous. All right?
I'm glad that she gave you a chance. Steffo gave you a chance to.
Me too.
To fight a learning curve, because, and that's something that now that they do have gay marriage, that people are going to have to understand that people aren't used to it, and therefore they're going to have to take some time to, I see it a lot when they used to do, is the term proper Black or African American? That was a big debate going on amongst people that were not African American or Black.
Right.
And if you were to ask an Islander, the answer is Black. And if you were to ask African American, they gave you the generic answer, because even they weren't thoughtful to other Blacks. It wasn't that they meant to be. They just assumed everybody in America is African American. But no, they're not. Some are Islander American, some are, and it was a learning curve that now we pretty much curved over time, that anybody that's not just trying to be an asshole learned the difference. But it took time to do that. It's like that's the way I feel about anime. There was a big learning curve in understanding anime's name schemes. I think even to try to understand the underlying stuff. Like I always felt like Vegeta had a girl voice, but apparently that's pretty popular. That type of voice styling is pretty popular in Japanese anime.
Right.
I wasn't aware of it. You know what I'm saying? But like, it sounded like a girl to me. Call me bumpkin, call me whatever, but I wasn't aware of the cultural distinction there. And because something I had a conversation the other day, and I was like, Japanese are known for metrosexualness. They're like, it's really what's hot. You know what I'm saying? It's really what's popular. J-pop, being metro. That is not to do anything with sexuality whatsoever, other than they just dress really, really nice. American men don't do that.
Right. Well, the thing is, Japanese, like I said, they have, just like America, they have we'll call them subcultures inside. Like there's the salaryman business guy thing, and they tend to be actually very masculine, and they tend to be very feminine, depending on whether they're guys and girls and stuff. And then you have, like you said, there's actually an entire subculture that is purposefully androgynous. They actually dress in such a way that to make it to where it's hard to distinguish what gender they are on purpose. Now, they don't try to they obscure it on purpose. Now, it's not that they want to identify with one thing or they want to identify with another. It literally is that the purpose is to obscure the difference.
Right.
Okay. Fine. You know, and that's, I get that. You know, if that's your thing, then that's your thing. I personally, when I see them, they tend to look feminine to me. Now, I know that the idea is actually not to look feminine or masculine, but rather to...
Unless you look like Bolo Young when you're Japanese, there's not a lot of, you know... I mean, this is obviously stereotypical talking here, but right. I noticed, at least in actors, which is the only thing I can base it on because I'm not in Japan, but I'm sure there may be a broad middle ground. You know, the version of the southern Japanese with the beer belly, but for the most part you have the sumo style guys, you know what I'm saying, like you have the small compact Japanese guys that, you know, they really are, they do, you know, big burly Japanese don't exist, so that's why I know Bolo Chinese versus Japanese, just so we're clear on that, but in the Asian culture there's not a lot of big burly guys that represent the large majority of Asians, I should say, not just Japanese in general.
Yeah, I think the only place that I've ever seen guys that look like American
Mongolia.
No. The only place in Japan I think is probably in wrestling and Shuto. Those guys,
but they're still short. They're compact. They're more made like.
Not all of them. Let's not forget that. Who is it? There's a couple of them that actually used to fight against Ken Shamrock.
I'm not saying there aren't 8 foot tall basketball players in Japan.
No. But the majority of the guys that were in that camp had the same wrestler build. They had the Ken Shamrock, Bas Rutten build, and they're not all little guys. A lot of them are actually maybe a couple inches shorter than the average American, but not like 5'6" and stuff like what our stereotype of Japanese are. But that is literally the only place I have seen that. Now, I've seen some tough-looking Japanese guys, like, for example, the dude who played in Returner. That dude looked pretty tough. Now, he was still small, but he looked tough. And I think he was actually close to 6 foot, too. He was kind of tall for that. But, yeah, from an American perspective, seeing those guys, they look a lot more feminine to us. Even the more masculine ones just look feminine to us because of our sensibilities of being American. And I don't think that's necessarily shameful on our end. And I don't think that's necessarily an insult to them. There's just a distinction. That's how culture works, is not all cultures are compatible, and not all culture, if you come from the background of one culture, another culture looks foreign to you. That's just how life is, and that's not even insulting or anything. That's just reality.
But yeah, you generally don't see a lot of big thick Asians like that. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, when you think Asian, you think Bruce Lee. You really do, and most people do. And I imagine that they're similar. You know, when they think American, you know, they may have a few types. Like we see a few types. Like we think Japanese was the first thing we think sumo. You know what I'm saying? Sumo wrestler guys. Those are the big burly guys. You know, over here we got such a diverse culture. You know, to say what's American is nothing really. America holds no value, but its individuals value, but the values that the individuals themselves hold. We don't hold one universal American value,
right?
At all. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right. Now in the South, which is the section of America, we have a large. I'm sure. You know, I love Southern fried chicken. That's just me. It's a Southern thing that most. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hungry.
I was like, see, I bet you wish you had fish sandwiches now.
No, I wish I had Southern fried chicken, but all right, that's a Southern thing. So, you know, and it's not a black or white thing. I know a lot of black people that eat it. I live in the South.
You know, that's one of the ones I always thought was funny. Is I think it's because a large number of blacks reside in the South, and I'm guessing that's what it is, but I don't even know if that's the case. But I always thought that was the most hilarious stereotype, that black people like fried chicken and watermelon. I'm like, I don't like watermelon. But that's like the only Southern thing that I don't really like, and I don't understand.
That's just have an AC. But back in the days before ACs, everybody in the South liked watermelon. It stayed cold most of the time, and it was really rich, and it was
the reason I don't like it is because I don't have a very refined palate, and the taste is very mild. That's actually the reason I don't like watermelon. If it were more like I like watermelon flavored candy, but I don't.
Yeah.
And if watermelon was as strong flavored as the candy was, then actually I would like watermelon. It's actually not the flavor; it's the mildness of the flavor that actually gets me for watermelon.
But I don't see a lot of Eskimos eating it, mostly because, frozen watermelon just doesn't sound all that appetizing.
But yeah, but
in the summer, you can be on the side of the road, you crack open a freaking watermelon, you cut it up, you bite into it, and it's just like boom! It's a blast of flavored water, and it's so drenched in water that it's refreshing.
But see, that's the thing. Yeah, but I think that's where it came to a problem with me is I like flavor, and like I said, I don't have a very refined palate. So to me, it tasted like watered down fruit rather than watery fruit, and that's why I didn't like it. It's not the flavor of watermelon itself that bothers me. It's literally just the lack of flavor.
Now this may be an objective opinion. I don't know. What I view, like when I think about black man, or what I think of a Southern black man. All right. And all the stereotypes that go with being Southern, not necessarily with being black, but with being Southern. I think of a guy sitting out in the lawn chair enjoying the summer heat, eating a watermelon or something like that. To me, that isn't racist in nature. I would be sitting right beside him eating it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because
they're a Northern black man, and I don't know how, other than a thug personality. I think that could be a lot of the breakdown in the social thing. Is like, what is a Northern black guy like? I mean, they didn't have a lot of them up there.
Well, I'm assuming I'm assuming that and this is just a guess because honestly, I don't know too many Northerners unless they're from New York and moved to Florida. I mean, to be honest with you, I really don't know too many Northerners.
That's what we were ragging Mac about last week.
I assume that a Northern black guy would just basically be the Northern culture, just like a Southern black guy, like you said. I think the same way. That's why I always thought it was a weird stereotype to make that black people like fried chicken. I'm like, who in the right mind doesn't like fried chicken?
Right.
They're like, they like Shasta. I'm like, who doesn't like Shasta? It was cheap, you drink it.
Moon pies, I love them.
Moon pies. Oh my god, Mama used to always have moon pies. They're great, and I like both the banana flavored moon pies and the chocolate moon pies.
Right.
Yeah, they're awesome. And that's what I was saying.
Marshmallows is the Southern thing. I mean, campfire marshmallows. S'mores.
Growing up, I did not know at first that those were black stereotypes, or stereotypes. You're little, you don't think of that kind of thing. I honestly thought that everyone liked fried chicken. I thought everyone liked cornbread. I didn't know that there's places where that people have never actually had cornbread before. It never dawned on me.
I didn't even know that there's ordering differences. The first time I went to California, sweet tea. I don't drink tea, but the order sweet tea is raspberry tea.
Really?
It's not Southern tea. No,
oh my
it's not.
god,
that's disgusting. Specifically to order that. If you order sweet tea, you're gonna get some sort of flavoring in it that you don't want. And
okay, that's disgusting.
That was my opinion on it too. But I was like, okay. So as I traveled around the United States, I got to see more and more cultures, and I did get to notice differences that, even to me, that somebody doesn't drink tea. I have a standard definition of what tea is. Sweet tea better have fucking sugar in it,
Right, exactly.
But it's not. It's unsweet tea with some sort of raspberry flavoring or something like that. And when you order in the restaurant, you got to be careful what you order. I didn't know that. But yeah, so as far as food stereotypes go, and that might spawn from what was available.
Right, yeah.
South, therefore, chicken was popular. It was a cheap food. It's still a cheap food compared to hamburger. Ground beef's expensive nowadays. You're paying like $30 a roll for that shit. It's ridiculous.
I can concede that, but I do want to make one point on that just so that way it's abundantly clear, and that is, I don't care about if it's a matter of where you're from or anything like that. Fried food is the best. That's all there is to it. I honestly,
sure. It didn't clog your arteries. It didn't taste good,
I will be an elitist about fried foods. I don't care. I don't care if that puts me on the odds with someone else who's like, well, really, you should eat whatever, baked tofu or whatever. The fact is, if I was going to eat tofu, it'd still probably need to be deep fried tofu. Exactly. I mean, hell, you're talking about they even deep fry freaking ice cream and Snickers and everything else and Twinkies. the fact is fried food is delicious, and I don't care. The idea. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can deal with oven fried. Like for example, when I'm eating healthy, terrible oven fried chicken. Not as good as deep fried chicken, but it definitely isn't as bad as baked chicken either.
Well, like,
oh, good.
I have fried. You eat fried potatoes, right?
Did you just ask me if I eat fried potatoes?
Yes, I know the answer. It was rhetorical for the.
Okay, I'm like, I was offended. I'm like, no, Josh, I don't eat fried potatoes.
Okay, and you know you fry them, but you don't deep fry them. That's my cutting down. Like if I feel like I'm taking in too much fat, because I have a massive commercial double-in deep fryer. Okay, so I have to watch because I'll fry my corn dogs, everything. I'm like, bam, you get it. You're like fried hot pockets. You know what I'm saying?
That's because they're so good and they crisp up.
Right, and the corn dogs get crispy and you love them.
Exactly.
So I have to be careful because I eat a lot of fattening foods, and obviously grease is probably not great for your diet. So you know, to me, cutting down is using the pan, buttering a little bit with some vegetable spread, and then throwing some potatoes in there and fried potatoes. And to me, that's cutting down on my greases, which probably by my doctor's definition isn't. But
Two things I had to say. One is an apology to Wesley, because apparently I wasn't completely honest. I just didn't realize I wasn't being completely honest when I said I don't like food. Because apparently I like the ideal of food. I don't like, to me, when I eat food, it can be, like I said, I mean, literally you can just throw it all in a bowl and shove it straight in my mouth and I won't even taste it anyway. But I realized that I do apparently have food enjoyment in terms of what I considered acceptable and unacceptable. And so I do want to apologize to him if he actually happens to listen. If you happen to listen to the rest of the show, because apparently all it was is we just had to start talking Southern cooking. Because if you're like, do you like?
I know you'd be so mad even with this conversation.
Because I was just sitting there talking. Well, the stupid thing is, in my actual diet, I don't pay attention to those things. I like if you throw food on my plate, I eat it. It doesn't even matter if I like it or not, as long as it's something that I don't dislike, I'll eat it. But apparently I am very opinionated, even though I don't really care what I eat. Apparently I am very opinionated about what is considered acceptable for good food versus bad food. I did not realize that about myself. Because like I apparently that does matter to me. So I apologize, Wes. I'm still not really a food person, but apparently there is a distinction between Southern cooking and all that other crap.
I
am going to make a quick note here, because we were talking about the different culture and stereotyping of culture by food and stuff. And you were talking about going out to California and them placing orders and stuff. Yeah, I realized the distinction. There was two different times, because the first time I thought was kind of a fluke. I got okra one time, and I was working at a place. It was a yacht club, they really upscale place, and they're like, they told me what they had available, and they were going to give me something to eat. I'm like, hell yeah! I'm like, I'll tear up some okra. You don't even ask me for okra. You won't have any left, And so they bring me over some okra, and it's a bowl, and it's got tomatoes and okra in some kind of suspension. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, okra. I'm like, that's not okra. I'm like, no, maybe you misunderstand me. Unless that is in gumbo, that's not the way you make okra. Like, okra is breaded and deep fried, and you make it with livers or gizzards or something like that. And it's delicious and excellent. Like, that looks disgusting. That looks like tomato. That looks like basically water or oil with some tomato and okra pieces in it. That's not the same thing. There was not even any breading on the okra. And the second time was when Al, who of course his family's from Pennsylvania, although I didn't know that his family was originally from West Virginia, so I think it's even weirder. But his family was from Pennsylvania, and so he was asking me if I wanted some dumplings. I'm like, hell yeah, fucking tear that up too. And then they had vinegar in them, and lots of it. Oh man, I couldn't eat them. That was so gross. I'm like, where the hell did you learn to do this? He's like, and I found out later. Apparently, vinegar.
That's a northern thing.
It is, and I did not. I don't get me wrong. I had heard that you put vinegar in food. I just never saw something that you actually put it in, so I didn't know what kind of things you put vinegar in. I figured it was kind of like how even though a cake looks all big and fluffy, you actually have eggs in there, which is kind of weird. Just one of those weird things that you just kind of mix to it, like soy sauce or Worcestershire sauce or something that you just kind of mix in the whole thing, and you don't even notice it's in there. I did not know that vinegar is an actual thing
Okay,
For
I
fucking-
find something offensive to me.
What's that?
I generally don't get offended by stereotypes, and I think it's ridiculous when other people do, for the most part.
Especially
You know
if they're
what I'm
funny.
saying? Even negative stereotypes. But I'm offended when I'm not included in a demographic of stereotype. For instance, the watermelon thing. In second, third, and fourth grade, every year we had a watermelon seed spin contest where we ate shitloads of watermelon spinning. All right, in a school that was primarily white with a mix of black, but it wasn't dominantly either. It
I'd say a
wasn't dominantly white.
I say a mix of black. If you're talking about Altoona Elementary, I think there was like 2.
I don't know. I know there were some there, but the point was that as a black stereotype, I want to be included in the watermelon stereotype. You know what I'm saying? I'm offended not to be. I want to be a fried chicken eating, watermelon eating Southerner. You know what I'm saying? Include me in that demographic. You know what I'm saying? Include me in that stereotype.
Well,
So I'm offended when I'm not included in the right stereotypes. So that bugs me.
actually, you know one that bothers me?
What's that?
Whenever someone hears a banjo, what do they think of? They think of some redneck guy,
Redneck, sure, right,
Deliverance style hillbilly, right?
right.
Well, that was a black instrument originally. White people weren't the only one playing in what would now be, by now standards, would be called a bluegrass band. All right, but you never see a bunch of black guys kicking back playing bluegrass, and I think that's unfair to them, because if we're gonna make a stereotype about what you'd expect to be, that's actually one of the things I liked about The Marine. In The Marine, the movie with John Cena in it, they had these 2 big hillbilly guys. Just these monster-looking hillbilly dudes that he had to fight at one point. And I guess he came upon. I want to say it was Marine. He came upon their like drug operation that they were doing in the back of the woods. Right. One was this big black hillbilly, and the other was this big white hillbilly. And I'm like, now that's a more accurate representation of hillbillies to me. You know, that's a more accurate representation of well, because like I said, it wasn't just, you know, as a matter of fact, you constantly go on about the fact that there were technically white slaves and there were white indentured servants as well as black slaves. They just weren't as plentiful, and they're not the stereotypical slave. And they you know, and obviously once they were freed, they actually got all the rights of being white, whereas black people did not. But there were, in fact, these things. Okay, the people the Irish immigrants that moved into the mountains, and the Southerners who had transplanted here from across the seas faced a lot of the same oppositions. You know, the poverty and stuff like that. So that means that, like I said, it wasn't just poor white people playing the banjo. Originally, it was actually poor black people playing the banjo. So I think that it's only fair that they get to be. But like I said, once again,
It's stereotype.
well, the thing is, and now admittedly, the banjo and bluegrass tend to have a negative stereotype. From what I've seen on TV. Now, this is obviously just going on what media portrays, or what the media I've seen portrays it. It's always some, like I said, some toothless hillbilly guy. But there's no reason it can't be a black toothless hillbilly, because the fact is, there are black toothless hillbillies, just like there's white toothless hillbillies. That's not a racial thing. That, once again, it's funny, because I disagree. I will tell you right now, I disagree with 99% of his politics, and I don't even agree with his thing on the flag. But Eric Erlenwein said something that I completely agree with. All right, when he said that, you know, you can still be Southerner without trying to make it about the Confederacy. You can still be Southerner without using that flag. He's like, and Southerners deserve to be proud of their heritage. He's like, and it's not race versus race; it's class versus class, and it is. It's, you know, Southerners were always poor, and I'm not saying
typically has the best demographic. Whenever you're trying to find a demographic, like I was trying to find the best demographic that encompassed police shooting, and poor seemed to bid it with a 96th percentile range.
Exactly, yeah. And so, and that's what I said is, now I'm not saying, once again, for anyone who's listening to this who's either black or cares about black civil rights as they occurred during the 60s, I'm not saying they didn't have other challenges as well. I'm just saying that a lot of the things that are put on blacks or blacks in the South was actually just, unfortunately, the conditions of living in the South in general. Not everything was about race. And I'd say that there was an overwhelming majority that were actually, and especially nowadays, are actually about class. The fact is, if you go to an inner city, the color of the people isn't what matters. Inner city tend to be poorer than people who live in some, regardless of race.
There was a benefit to being poor at one time in history, American history, that I know of.
I'm listening.
In the Great Depression, the South didn't really suffer. It didn't suffer no more than it was already suffering.
Yeah, we're already poor.
We were already poor. So living like a lot of the problems with like the bankers of New York and stuff like that went from rich to poor. They didn't know how to survive the instant collapse. They started to get into prohibition of alcohol, things like that. Things that the South was going to do for themselves anyway. Shine runners started before Prohibition and long after Prohibition. They were still making their own shine, and to this day, they still make their own shine. So, as a Southern thing, it didn't affect, the policies that were enacted really didn't affect the South as much as it did the North when it came to the Great Depression. In New York, there was soup lines. In the South, you just went and picked the orange off the tree and ate that. You hunted you some fucking food. It was a benefit of being in the South during the poorest time in history. Even now, I do not feel we suffer as much in the South as they do in the North from this Great Recession.
I gotcha. Actually, I don't know what the North has suffered like this. I will say that we've probably suffered more this time than we have anyone in the past. But I don't think it has to do with whether we had more or less. I think that actually what happened is we started being taught that there's a specific way to live. And we were kind of buying into it. We're kind of buying into move to the city. It's good for you because there's more job opportunities. And so like, okay, well, screw that. Screw the family farm. I've seen so many farms close over like the last 10, 20 years that I'm like, okay, I get it. You move to the city. You don't have to deal with the hardships. You can actually just get you a regular old job and make an honest wage. I get that. Cool. There's a drought or a freeze isn't going to kill your crop. You still go into the same 9-to-5 job anyway. I get the mentality behind that. But I think the thing is, I think a lot of people bought into that. And so they're like, okay, well, I'll up and sell the farm, and then I'm going to move into the city. I'm going to go ahead and start me a life doing that. And then what happens? Economic struggles, economic hardships, and then suddenly you don't have that no more, and you don't have your farm no more either.
Right.
And so I think that this time we were hit harder because we were buying into that metropolitan mentality about how a man should conduct his life instead of living off the land and stuff like that. And I think that actually that's why, like I said, that hardship is definitely why we have seen more people. I
don't know if it's pressure or like that or just laziness, but I see less gardening done. Less. In the South, gardening was my parents were some of the laziest people as far as it goes, but they had a garden. A vegetable garden, you know what I'm saying? It was almost...
No, that's not what that was. We call that cover.
Tomatoes hide your marijuana really well.
Right, exactly. You put the tomatoes in front, the pot in the back. That's the way that works.
Okay.
No.
But, they did. And many times. My dad really liked growing plants. My mom really liked growing plants. Which at times are beneficial. Go ahead.
I don't think it's laziness, though. Once again, I think that we were sold a dream that was kind of a bill of goods, and everyone started buying into it. And then now we're paying the price for it. So now when you need that gardening, no one has the skills no more. And because the parents saw that the kids were going to start making this move, I don't think a lot of parents took the time because, like, our parents didn't really teach us about gardening. Now you're right, they did garden on their own, and actually they also worked in a nursery. The love of it. All you need is the love of it once you develop the love for it, you'll seek out the information yourself. No, I agree with you, but I think that sometimes you have to be introduced. Like, for example, because of the fact that I introduced my kids to computers, they're more likely to have a love of it than they would have otherwise. Because they've been exposed to it. They feel comfortable with it. They feel familiar with it. And so even if something doesn't go right immediately, they know that that's the process by which you go. I guarantee you that plenty of people have tried their hand at gardening, and then it took no time before they realized that they suck at it, and rather than persevere because they didn't realize they can love it. It's easy to love something. Right, it's easy to love something once you get going. It's usually that first aha moment that makes you love something. Nelson Legault, when he was doing his magic show, that's actually one thing he mentioned was he saw someone perform magic and he was captivated. So he went out and he ended up getting one of those Harry Blackstone magic kits. And he said the first time that he said he knew he wanted to be a magician when the first time he walked into his kitchen or whatever and he was showing someone a trick. And he's like, ta-da! And they're like, and they looked actually like, holy crap, how'd you do that? Not like, patronizing a kid. Oh, that was really good. Well, let me go and show you the one about the quarter behind the ear. But they looked genuinely mystified, like, how the hell did you do that?
Right.
And that was when he knew he wanted to be a magician, because it just blew his mind that he was able to make an adult feel that way. And I think that's it. I think that sometimes you have to have someone show you how to do it just so you can actually know that you can love it. And so I think that decreases the number of people that love it only because they're not exposed to it. We were exposed to it, so the fact that we love it or don't love it is one thing. But there's plenty of people out there that, I mean, well, let's put it this way. Kim's from the South, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Has she ever gardened? No, before getting with you. Before getting with you.
Probably not. Probably before me. Hell no. I'll ask her, but I doubt it.
Right. Did her mom ever show her how cool gardening was? Probably not.
Yeah, but her mom's from the north. Her mom's from New Jersey.
But that's my point, though. No one was there to show her, so even she may have actually loved gardening had she got into it when she was a kid. But it's very rare.
She was 4-H and horticulture. Yeah, 4-H. She did 4-H and horticulture.
Okay. Well, I was just asking because
down south as much as she's up north as you do see down south. 4-H is really a southern thing. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have it in the north, but it's far less common.
I say, do they have it in the north? Because I've never actually heard of someone from the north tell me that they've been to 4-H classes. And
but I know they have it in California, which is iffy.
Right, it's more progressive and stuff. Yeah, I got you. It's not southern in mentality.
I noticed that California adopts some weird, it's like, it's kind of like Florida and kind of like New York, That's the way I look at California.
And say, well,
it's
actually,
things like that. Good.
Oh, go ahead, finish what you're saying, then I'll say it.
But it has its own version of redneck Southerners with the rebel flags and gun right ideologies and stuff that you would see in the South. So California is really diversified like that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is Florida is actually very weird anyway. Out of all the southern states, Florida is the weird one because, listen, we have a really weird cross-section of people. And we have sections that are very, very rural. I'm talking so rural that you don't get there with a regular car type rural. Obviously, going to the Everglades, going back in the clay pits, that's a truck. You use a truck for that stuff. You don't use a car. If you have a car, you ain't getting nowhere. And even
we took them out there many times. We had to dig them out. Shit.
That's what I was going to say. But the point is, we have places that are rural like that. Like I said, I remember when we got paved roads out here, and everyone hated it. It's in my memory that occurring. Now that tells you that it happened at least since I was old enough to remember stuff. What was that? That was about what, 15, 20 years ago tops? No, 15 years ago, right?
Probably.
Something like that. When they first started paving the roads. I want to say I was about 17 at the time when they first started paving the roads out here. So I remember what it was like walking on the hot sand and knowing that you could play in the street because anyone who was dumb enough to go barreling down them roads is just going to hit one of them freaking dips, and man, they're just going to tear the bottom out of their suspension. So it wasn't going to harm nobody. And that is a separate thing from like when you go to Orlando or Jacksonville. To me, when I go to Orlando, oh my God, it's such a weird feeling to me because it's like I feel like I'm traveling. I feel like I'm on a flight to a foreign land. It's like there's nothing. Then all of a sudden, by the time you hit Sanford, boom, everything, everywhere. Like there's just everything everywhere, and I'm like, holy crap! I felt like I fell asleep and woke up in the Twilight Zone or something. Like, what is this future place that I'm at? And going to Jacksonville is even worse. Jesus Christ, going to Jacksonville. I remember when we were coming from Virginia to Florida and we passed through. I want to say we passed through Jax, and I was like, I felt like I was looking at welcome to the world of tomorrow, because it's just so foreign to me. Right. But that's all Florida for you. Florida's weird like that. Florida has a lot of immigrants, a lot of people who have been here since Florida was founded. A lot of transplants that are still from nearby places but move here. We have a rural culture that is farming and family farms and stuff like that. And then we also have a tourist population which is completely distinct and relies on a whole different set of mechanisms. So Florida is such an oddball compared to most other states. And so therefore our policies, and I think that's why everyone gets confused by Florida policies and Florida culture, is because of that separation between those two and the fact that we have to balance those two aspects.
Okay. Now, I feel like the South represents liberty more than the North, and this is why, not in its political policies, but in its general need to stave off what the North is selling it. And all right, like, we're real me people in the South. Now, there's a selfishness to that. It's all about me and my liberty, and that's why it spills into politics such as guns and things like that. But it's all about me and my liberty. But it's also about me and my freaking watermelon and me and my fried chicken. Don't try to change it. Just let me eat my fried chicken and leave me in peace. Okay, that's a Southern. Whereas the North seems to want the South to catch up always want the South to catch up with things.
Yeah, I got
instead
you.
of letting it move at its own pace. We have lax policies, we're like, and I feel like I don't think it's racially divided, but I do think there's a strong presence. All right, the flag was a fun example. The most people I've heard say anything about the flag were from the North. They were Obama coming down. They were, the Black Panther Party coming down from up north and things like that. And it's like, okay, it's not even the opinion of the state of South Carolina or opinion of the South. These are opinions from other locations being pressed upon what we should do. We should get with the times. We should move along, both in political and in general nature. Foods,
Right, culture and just because
foods has become politics. I don't know how it did, but like trans fats. I'm a Southerner. I want you to cook my shit in lard. You know what I'm saying? Fuck your trans fats. I don't give a damn. Let me not give a damn with my own liberty.
Right.
All right. I want my raw milk. Go ahead.
I do want to point something out that on one thing you said there, because you said there's a selfishness in the fact that it's all about me and my liberties. I want to point out that part is actually the selfish part of it, not the liberty, is actually a recent thing. When people start feeling that their liberties trump other people's liberties, because of one is for more open and one is not. Because it was the old saying, good fences make for good neighbors. The fact is, I ignored what my neighbors were doing, and they should ignore what I'm doing. And at that point, it wasn't so much selfish because you afforded them the same respect. And like I said before, my viewpoint is a very Southern historical viewpoint. Regardless of what we're constantly taught, I believe the way that a lot of my my parents and my parents' parents believe, which is none of your damn business.
Right. Mind your damn business.
Right. None. What I'm doing is none of your damn business, and what you're doing is none of my damn business. So therefore, you want to do your thing. I don't care. Why? Because it's not my business to worry about, and what I'm doing is none of yours. So therefore, if I want to become a gay skinhead, then I become a gay skinhead, and you just mind your own damn business. And at the same time, if you want to become an ultra-conservative businessman, that's none of my damn business. The only time it becomes none of our business is when you step over the fence into someone else's yard. The fact is, I am free to state my opinion, and everyone else is free to disagree with my opinion, and vice versa. And that's all there is to it. Is I don't have the right to tell you how you should feel, or what, or impress upon you how my opinion is the right opinion, because it's none of my damn business how you feel. It's none of your damn business how I feel. You can state it. Someone else can disagree. That's the end of that entire problem. And that's, to me, that's how rights are. That's why, like I said, I do not agree with the way that the whole SCOTUS thing occurred. But I don't care about the opinion. I don't care that they legalize gay marriage. That is not anything that I have a concern about. It is not a problem.
Actually, I do. I wish they had come to it.
That's what I mean.
I wish they would come to the legislation. That would be all right. Because right now they've put themselves in a time in history where they risk losing it all for setting back their own causes 100 years. I said, if they push for constitutional amendment, which is a possibility, 37 states had banned it outright. It's enough to call a constitutional convention. And ratification can take time, but it can take an infinite amount of time. Just because all the states won't sign a date, it only takes 38 to ratify. You do that, you set yourself back 100 years. pushed this issue from federal DOMA laws to state DOMA laws. I don't think they're just going to give up at this point. And since that's their only recourse, I believe that's the approach they will take.
And so basically, it's a large gamble that they're making from the way that they chose to have it happen.
And I think it's like, we want it so bad, we don't care how we get it, and if we get it this way, we don't care about the ramifications of it. Social acceptance, one has to come in a form of, you can't force feed it. It causes wars. That's what caused the Civil War. It wasn't that slavery wasn't going to go out, because slavery was about on its way out the door anyway. It was already starting to. They were getting pressures from England. They were getting pressures from countries that had already freed it, just like we do today on gun rights and stuff. People were trying to basically think of it as conflict-free cotton. We started abandoning non-conflict diamonds.
Right.
The same was true there. We started anti-slave cotton. You know what I'm saying? We were trying to. They were starting to do it, and the South was going to have to give in anyway. Many Southerners had. They switched their approach on it. That's why I think slavery was at like maybe 1.6% or whatever. It was relatively low, high in the fact that it was anybody at all. But they said, we're going to force feed policy. When you force feed policy, you upset people in a way that. Now, how many black people died in the Civil War? How many people, period, died in the Civil War? Not even black people. That didn't have to die for a cause.
That was really on its way out anyway.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It didn't have to come to war, and this doesn't have to come to war either. But they could set themselves back. One of the things I was talking on a forum with, and somebody was mocking another guy. They're like, because you lost, ha ha ha. That mentality is getting big, because you lost. Great, celebrate your victories, but don't push the other guy to have an agenda to drive back.
Right? Yeah. Don't
something.
Right.
That guy, you pissed him off today. He goes and kills somebody tomorrow, all because of what you've done.
Right.
I think of that when I'm debating too. Is what I'm going to say here now going to provoke something worse later, something that may not be me.
Yeah, or even worse, or I should say just as bad, not necessarily worse, but even just as bad is, are you going to end up hurting another person in an irreparable way? Because you're right. Like, I always think back, and I think this is where I came to a lot of my view on how to interact with other people, even when you don't see eye to eye and stuff. Do you remember a long time ago when they still had the Yahoo chat rooms? This was back in '98, I want to say, when we first got our first computer. All right, when we first got our first, huh?
I got laid 3 times in those chat rooms. Go ahead.
Yeah, but if you remember, there was also one incident where you were talking to this girl, and we drove her hard. And given what we were arguing about and talking about, I'm pretty sure we drove her to kill herself. Now, I don't know for sure, and hopefully that's not the case. But the fact that
we made those proportions, I get it, and I believe so too.
And not over a problem that I had, just over didn't like the way she was acting, so we acted hard on her. And I mean, even if hopefully it didn't come to that, and she just logged off and decided she didn't want to be part of chat rooms because we were dicks, then she may never get the help she did, because she may never reach out to someone or she may not get the help she needed because she may not have reached out to someone because we were dicks. And that's kind of what made me go, wow, it didn't happen immediately. It happened a few years later, but that's when I really started going, oh my God, I had to be careful because something you told me a long time ago, and I witnessed when I came back to Florida. People do listen to me, and people do take stock in what I say, like a lot of stock. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
and
like I referenced to you the other day about being a snake in the garden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people will listen to what I say, and they're like, Mike, that makes a lot of sense. And I've had people actually adhere to what I say, even though in my head, like I told the one person, I wasn't trying to change their opinion or anything. I was just trying to get them to think about the situation. But instead of thinking about the situation, as I was trying to demonstrate through my explanation, they just took my explanation as some kind of weird gospel and started following my explanation, which actually is very dangerous, because it was not meant as it was meant almost as a devil's advocate thing to get them to think about it in more than one way before they make a judgment call on it. It was a thought process, a Gedanken experiment. It was not meant, like I said, the things that they followed from it actually ended up damaging them. And they came back and like, dude, you're a dick. Why would you send me down that path? And I'm like, I didn't send you down any path. I was like, and they're like, well, you said blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you remember the context, what I said was blah, blah, blah. So that way, because you were saying blah, 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 so that way you would think about it in another way. And you'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'm being too harsh in this way or whatever the case is, and maybe I needed to put a little more thought into it. It's kind of like a modest proposal where basically he recommends eating dead babies and stuff. He didn't want people to go eat dead babies. He wanted to be like, think about what you're saying here before you go to making your decision, and so you make a rational decision. But, I guarantee you that there's someone out there who reads a modest proposal and is like, you know what, we need to eat dead babies. That'll save all the problems. Aborted fetuses, we're good to go. And it's like, yeah, that's not the point of that explanation. It was actually, that is ludicrous, and so is what you're saying is ludicrous. And so that's when I saw that someone literally recited back to me something I said to them during a conversation 10 years prior, approximately, give or take. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I did not think that my words held that much power over people that they just trusted in me with that kind of a responsibility. And once I realized that, that's why when I talk to people, I will take the extra time to speak with them if we don't see eye to eye. And that's why if I say something, I do, I am polite about it, even if I disagree with them, because I know that you say that a lot. Like, you can sit there and insult someone, and I've heard you say you can sit there and insult someone, but you're always so nice about it that they don't get upset with you. Well, that's not because I care if they get upset with me about it or not. It's because I don't want them to get upset because of the way I said it. And I don't want it to be a problem where they end up doing something that harms others, harms themselves, or harms even just their mentality, when I just wanted them to think about what I was talking about. And I just wanted them to really take stock before they move on, whether it affects them or not, or whether they change their opinion or not, and
that's pretty much how we counter pushing. That's where people become, all right. I imagine police are so hostile today because a lot of police officers lost their lives, and they snapped. They got tired of it.
Right, yeah.
When you're dying, I'm tired of this. All right, but then they started killing people, and then they did it, and then so society's pushing back, and we get Baltimore, Ferguson.
Right.
It's not the best way to handle a situation for either party,
exactly.
involved. But it's all this counter pushing, just like the gays were celebrating, the gay supporters were celebrating, but they were also very mocking of the losing side. Something you should probably never do, because yes, you may have won the football game, but it doesn't mean they won't tip your bus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why, luckily,
you know what I'm saying?
Thankfully, I only saw a few people like that on my Facebook feed. Most of them were like,
on Facebook, people are more careful because they know the people, they interact with the people.
But
on blog forums, it's a blind thing. Most people don't even use their real name,
right?
And then they don't think no more about the people they've interacted with,
right? No, I wish I could say that people were more cautious on Facebook, but as a general rule, I think these last few months have demonstrated that people are, a lot of times people end up treating Facebook like a blog post without thinking about the fact they interact with them until it's too late. And then they either had to backpedal and be all apologetic over something they actually do believe in, they just didn't realize they were being dicks about it, or they end up having to stand their ground even though they were wrong in the way they treated the other person, even if their point is right, the way they treated the other person. And it leads to a lot of contention with people that you actually do interact with offline because of the way Facebook operates. And I agree with that. I think that the problem is I think Facebook is actually one step removed from the danger of Tumblr's, blog spots, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I think that, I don't know. I think that I'd like to see people go, hey man, I don't agree with you. I'm gonna hide this post because I really don't want to be part of this, and that's cool. Hide this post or ignore this post. I think that's an awesome course of action to be able to see something and just be like, whatever, man. I also think it's cool when gays that are celebrating, they should celebrate. Why? Because they got a major victory, something they have really wanted for a long time, and they won it. If this was something I cared about, like I don't even know what would be a good example, but if I were a pot smoker and they just legalized pot, I'd be really happy and proud of that too. Anything that you fight for, you should be proud when you get that victory. But I also agree with you about the good sportsman thing. I don't think that you want to sit there and be like, ha ha, fuckers, you suck, we win, ha ha ha, because you're right. Next thing you know, then they'd be like this hooligans. They get all pissed off over their team losing in soccer and basically burning a city and stuff. It just does not bode well.
And that's generally my, I have an issue with that, and it's with fair. Why would you want in any way? Why would you want to cause more problem? All right, I was really disappointed in some of the game, and obviously I realize they're just people. That they had a mentality for a non-violent, non-aggressive approach to civil rights, to getting what they wanted. Because that was the big argument. Love wins, but I think love didn't win until it got too aggressive, till it was no longer love. It was spite. It was calling names. It was damn your Christian values, damn your whatever. And I think that's the point when they won, because I don't believe civil ever gets you anything. I think that's like civil's a form of complacency.
See, it's funny. I disagree with your view on that. I actually think that it is possible to win non-violently and to win civilly. I don't agree with you on that. I will say that it's not as short a path, and it takes a lot more patience and consideration.
I think in a shock, and I damn sure don't think you could do it in modern society. It takes Baltimore to get change, unfortunately, because we should be writing, because it's the only thing that people respond to. Even our political leaders and stuff like that. Reason isn't going to get it. They're just going to counter reason or whatever. So what you're going to get is a whole lot of nothing. The minute you start burning stuff down, as bad as that seems, you're going to get an effective notice. I'm not saying that it's going to work out best for everybody, because situations never work out good for some people. But we live in a Jerry Springer generation where it's hard to shock us. So you have to work really hard to shock us. So, that shock value matters, I think. You know what I'm saying?
I get where you're coming from. I just, like I said, I don't think that is the only way. Unfortunately, I do think it is the easiest way. I think it is, but I also think that in the long run, it's the most dangerous way. And I think that that if people are a little more patient, then they can get it without that. But I do agree with you that, unfortunately, like I said, it does take a lot of patience and a lot of being willing to weather blows. You have to be very Jesus-like in that respect. You have to be willing to say, okay, you know what? I understand where you're coming from, and I still love you anyway. And hopefully one day you'll recognize that this is the way that it's supposed to be and not the way that you're handling it. But I can see where that would be really difficult for people to go with, just because that does seem like a lot of work for very little return. It reminds me on Reaper, the demons, their plan to beat Satan is to be nice. They're just going to be nice. Okay. They can't lose. And he's like, how long will that take? He's like, about 400 years. Like 400 years tops. And he's like, well, I don't have 400 years. He goes, yeah. He goes, I can see where to you 400 years seems like an eternity. You guys live so, or your lifespans are so short. You're like goldfish.
I gotta watch the show again.
And so I'm like, and so I could get where the idea that of an immediate attack, a strong showing, a strong display, being more useful in a short run. I just think that, unfortunately, the problem to me is that whenever that happens, what you see is a pendulum effect. And the pendulum sometimes slows down, the pendulum sometimes speeds up, but the problem is it goes back and forth. What needs to happen is I think that it'll take longer, but I think you need to just stop the pendulum.
Well, I think the pendulum has to swing back. And it already said, okay, great. Gay marriage is legal, and it should be. All right. except for my whole condition on it that I think they should have just made all things civil unions.
Right.
That way it wouldn't be separate but equal, but it would be that way you could hand marriage back to the church, and a civil union is what the contract you enter into with the state. Unless you're in Arizona. Did you read the article I sent you the other day? Yes, today.
No, I haven't had a chance. I told you I woke up at like 8.
It is some draconian ass law involved in there. Basically, it explains the it's basically a marriage license and what it means in Arizona, which is like the state is the principal. Even it's a contract between the state as the principal and you and your wife. And anything bared from that marriage is a party contract to the state, meaning your kids are not your own. They are actually considered to be born fruit, as listed in the contract, which means that they actually maintain all your financial stuff, all your things. You read it. It's impressively dangerous. I was like, holy crap. Me and Kim have actually decided to have a religious wedding and then just do all the paperwork for the name changes, wills, and everything that gays would have had to priorly do just to not get married in a traditional fashion with a state marriage license.
I gotcha.
We're just going to do do the extra mile and do the wills, do the living wills, do all the stuff that because of that.
Well, I thought you said that was only in Arizona, though.
No, it's in other states like it, though. There's 12 other states like it. It's states that aren't commonwealths, basically, is what it resides as. And we're not a commonwealth, so I would assume it would apply to us. Obviously, I'm going to check, but we've already considered that as an option because of it.
I gotcha.
So it was brutal. It really does state that even your dissolution of marriage, why it's called a dissolution of marriage, is because it changes the terms of the marital contract, but it doesn't actually end the contract. Meaning after your divorce, the state still holds all those values for both you, your wife, and your children.
Yeah, that is pretty messed up.
Yeah, I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to let you read it and tell me what you think at some point. But I was like, wow, I don't know if I want to get married in modern day times. You know what I'm saying?
If that occurs, actually, I will insist on being grandfathered in.
Grandfathered into what?
Well, I had to check, but I'm assuming that if they
that occurred in 1930 something is when they adopted those laws. You're already married under that pretext.
I may be married under that pretext, but whenever a law is changed, therefore, for example, I know for a fact that my kids were my own prior to at least the 1980s. You know what I'm saying? If it was the case for 1990s, then actually when I entered into my marriage, then the laws as they currently apply would not apply to me. I would be grandfathered in because I have not changed the terms of my contract since then, and they have not sent me anything that says that I agree or disagree with the new terms. And they're legal. Whenever the terms of a contract change, you're legally required to be given notice and the opportunity to dissolve the contract. So therefore, I would have the option of dissolving my marriage if the terms have changed at all from the 1990s. Under what you were saying about it being basically a contract between me and the government has to actually give me the information so that way I can make an informed decision to continue or dissolve my contract with them.
See, and that was the argument the guy put up, was that it wouldn't be a bearing contract because the terms are under, they have to be certain terms to the contract, and they are not explicit. It's perpetual, where terms can be modified along the way.
Even
the state alone.
So an even better thought on that, though, is if based on what you just said, the guy said, that means that not only can I choose to be grandfather, then on something if it's something that did not occur until afterwards, but anything that is not explicitly stated automatically goes to me since I'm not the one who gets to negotiate the terms of the contract. That's actually how contract law works.
Right. Generally, the party drafter has to suck it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
If you draft the contract, you're at risk of anything that isn't listed within that contract. And if there's ever a discrepancy that it can't be cleared up, it errs on the side of the non-drafting party.
Exactly.
But who knows? The state, they can rule any way they want. You know what I'm saying? That's the
no, they can't. Now the federal government has to on their behalf.
Nice. All right. I want to play. Did you get that song, Stefo's song set up? In
No,
honor
but
of Stefo, in honor.
Yeah.
Go ahead and cue up a Stefo song for him.
Alrighty. And then after that, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up. It's already 1 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
so
We ran a little long.
not a big deal. People probably weren't listening to us anyway, so it doesn't matter how long we talk.
No, we have viewers.
Nice. I like viewers.
Good
Viewers are good.
listeners.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners.
People like to listen to us ramble on for some reason.
That's weird because I hate it at home.
Just your wife and kids.
All right. I am actually going to play one of my wife's favorite songs called Ice Clock. This is an excellent song. All right. This right here is my parents' favorite music. That is actually headed by Stephanie Messenger, who I mentioned several times tonight, and she is a really awesome person. And if you get a chance, and I'll tell you right now, if you don't like one of her songs, give other ones a listen because they kind of run a real weird gamut of what she does in them. So, all right, here we go. Ice Clock.
Day 42, get stuff done. Gonna clean all the things, but first I have to check my email, and I just can't up and ignore my Facebook feed. Oh, is that a tweet? I hope it's about me. I like your opinion, and I'm glad you found me. I love life hacks. That's a really nice hat. They'll probably need an ice pack, pet invite, check-in, maybe. Back to bids of ugly babies. Back to online dating sites. Nope. All right, the microwave still beeping. Need to reheat, need repeating. So where did the time go? It's 9:02. Carpe diem tomorrow. One day, I won't procrastinate. Someday, just wait, I'll do a whole load of laundry. One day, I think today's the day. Someday, I swear, I can't fill my Netflix. Well, I'd like to learn a new language, but I'm just too busy writing this Care Bears Sons of Anarchy crossover slapstick I've been working on. I don't want to toot my own trumpet, but day 137, this time I mean it. No distractions. Turn on all productivity, turn off all known attachments. If I just minimize all my windows, I'm sure it'll be alright. Just turn on my phone and vibrate, put it sideways, out of sight. Now time for laser focus. Oh my god, is that a fat squirrel? You guys, I just saw the fattest squirrel. One day, I won't procrastinate. Someday, just wait, I'll do a whole load of laundry. One day, I think today's the day. Someday, I swear, I can't fill my Netflix. Politics and rainbows, obligations and kittens. I'm a full-grown adult. Rainbows and kittens, taxes and rainbows, the future and kittens. I'm a valued member of society. Rainbows and kittens, overtime and rainbows, counseling and kittens, death in the family. Rainbows and kittens, relationships and rainbows, exercise and kittens. Using filler for this third verse. Rainbows and kittens. One day I won't procrastinate. Someday, just wait, I'll do a whole load of laundry. One day, I think today's the day. Someday, I swear, I can't fill my Netflix. One day, I won't procrastinate. Someday, just wait, I'll do a whole load of laundry. One day, I think today's the day. Someday, I swear, I can't fill my Netflix. I'm making a list of my favorite books and what flavor yogurt their story would represent. Right now, I'm at George Orwell's 1984 and Vanilla Cherry.
All right.
Okay, I'm maintaining something. One, I think you're often our host. Our host started with like 5 fucking hosts. Our show did, and we're down to just me and you. Am I next? Should I be worried about that? I mean, you know, they just keep seeming like having accidents. You know, oops, the computer broke, or you know.
Well, no, see,
you know.
I'm actually even more clever than that. See, what you don't realize is what I did was I wanted your show. So if you notice, I ended up moving it to where my show used to be.
Okay.
And I'm off.
It's like a single white female with my show.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I can see that. That sucks. Don't start wearing my clothes, bitch.
Oh, you kidding me? No, think of it as fatal attraction. I'm gonna boil your money, dude.
I don't have none of that.
You had a bunny.
Yeah, I boiled it.
I boil my own bunny.
Yeah. Come on. What do you think I had it for? To me, animals are nothing more than food. It's the reluctance. One of the arguments they're like, in the struggle for animal rights was that at some point, one of the arguments was that if they put it into law, it's not as simple as put it into law that way. Defining it matters too, because sometimes you'll get a position where you can't eat your hamburger because killing the cows will be, brutal. So coming up with wording is tricky, and laws can be tricky like that. Imagine we're like, you can't do anything inhumane that you wouldn't do to a human, or whatever,
So basically,
terminology. But pigs are slaughtered by usually slashing their throats or cow. You know what I'm saying? Something brutal.
Yep.
So it makes it all tricky.
Actually, I think they changed the way pigs are slaughtered. I think that they use this basically equivalent of a nail gun to the skull. It's like basically
Nice.
saying, yeah, it's more or less like a gun, but at the end of the gun is basically this long needle, and basically stick it to the pig's head, bam, and sticks it straight through.
Gotcha. Bleed them out. You stick a pig anyway and bleed them
No,
out. That's how you do it.
I think that the first thing they do with the pigs, actually, like I said, is not bleed them out. I think they literally just shoot them in the head and basically kill the pig before they cut it open.
Well, chickens are usually put in like a conical thing, and they yank the neck and cut the head off. You know what I'm saying? And they let them bleed out, and that's food is really a brutal fashion that people can't never appreciate. But so animal rights is a long way to go because of food. But so I did enjoy our civil rights show today. It was nice, you know what I'm saying? It was nice to talk about some of the issues that was on everybody's brain. I hope none of the fans got too offended. But then again,
we're kind of asses, so it's quite possible.
Yeah, like if you're our fan, I don't understand why you would get offended any more than you would on a regular day.
Right. Right. We're normally, when we talk about anything, we're pretty offensive. And not necessarily offensive to be offensive, more offensive to be funny. But yeah, we don't really filter ourselves, and if that puts someone in an uncomfortable position, then you probably should have turned the show off. Well, I mean, to be honest, if I'm watching a show and I'm like, dude, this is, actually, I'll give you a perfect example. I read this one book, and it was about this guy who was a Southerner, and it was a liberals book. And basically, he was a self-hating Southerner, and then he kind of explained how he got past that while still being liberal. I read that whole book. I don't agree with most of what he said, but I read that whole book because I was like, okay, I get you, I'm following. I tried to read that Michael Moore book, Dude, Where's My Country, or whatever, or one of those. I got like page 10 or 12 or something. I'm like, oh my god! I just can't stomach this book. And so, one liberal guy that I had no problem with. The other one it was so revolting to me that I was like, I gotta just put this down. I'm like, I'm not only not following what he's saying, it's not even making any sense to me.
Well, I don't usually give a fuck if I offend somebody or a group or people or anybody at all. But as long as they understand what I mean, but I do get upset when they're offended by what I didn't truly say.
I got you.
If that
actually,
makes sense to you.
I think there's actually a good way to describe it. I actually feel bad if I offend somebody. I don't feel bad just because they take offense, though.
I got you.
If I say something that offends them, like, if I'm like, okay, I'm pro-gay marriage, and someone's like, well, that's messed up. Gay marriage is wrong. Okay, well, they took offense. I didn't say something offensive. So therefore, I'm not offending them. They're taking offense to what I said.
Right.
If I'm like, you, that guy's a big fucking fat cocksucker. I offended him. I personally insulted him, and therefore I can get where he'd be upset over that. And in that case, I'm guilty, not them.
There was a Supreme Court case about that. And they tried to make it more than it was. But a guy was on the corner preaching, ministering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the officer came along and was like, "Move along." Now, they arrested the guy. Once the guy got belligerent and started calling him a motherfucker and just all kinds of stuff that didn't benefit the arguments at all that were being made.
Right.
And the Supreme Court ruled on it, and they said, look, that kind of speech doesn't benefit any kind of argument. The speech he gave on the corner was not the same as what he called the officer. His intent with the speech was deliberately to harm the officer. There was no benefit of debate. There was no benefit of that, which now I think is a bad ruling because I really think free speech is just that, free speech. I don't think especially the fire analogy. All right. In no way should tragedy provoke you to be retarded. Okay? There's no reason why somebody screaming fire in a theater, they can't exit in some sort of civil manner. And then when they don't, the responsibility falls on the person that mistermed the word fire.
Right.
And maybe he did, and maybe he didn't mean to do it intentionally. Maybe he thought there was a fire, or maybe he anticipated or divined there was a fire. Or maybe he just said it because he said it. Nothing to be a jerk. You can't guarantee the response of something. You can't assume that everybody's going to go running for their lives. All right, for instance, you never know. Like, bullies usually anticipate people to back down until that one dude cracks on the side of the head with a 2x4. You just can't anticipate human behavior in that way. So it would be impossible for you to, because you can't anticipate it, to be responsible for it.
No, but at the same time, I think that there's a certain amount of reasonability. For example, if you're in the middle of a TV show, like say you're watching a movie like a Disney movie or something, and you scream fire, you can assume that most of those kids are going to become panicked. And most of the parents with the kids are going to become panicked because they have a natural inclination to fear for their kids' life and their own life. So there is a certain amount of responsibility to that. Now, at the same time, I'm not saying that the fire in a crowded movie theater is a good ruling or not, or clear enough or not. I'm just saying that I think that you can reasonably anticipate general action. Now, there's always going to be an outlier. There's going to be someone who's going to break that anticipation, but there's just a certain amount of reasonability. As far as what you said about the Supreme Court thing about that guy on the corner, funny enough, if he was being belligerent to the cop, he deserved to get arrested because actually it is, basically a cop can arrest you for that. Now, I don't necessarily like it, but that is the way it works. So if he did it, then in fact, that does happen that way. As far as the Supreme Court, funny enough, I don't know if I agree with the ruling or not yet. I do agree with the mentality, though, that those were two distinct types of speech. Now, I'm not saying that both of them aren't constitutionally protected, and I do believe that every speech is constitutionally protected.
I think it should be.
But at the same time, there is certainly a difference between trying to explain your position or persuade someone versus inciting them. There's definitely a distinction in mentality behind those two things.
Well,
now, whether or not that's enough for the Supreme Court to rule on or not, that's a different story. And like I said, because I do believe in the Bill of Rights being inalienable in every possible sense. It's inalienable to me.
Sure. I think if the Bill of Rights was intended to be, all right, there's exceptions to the Fourth Amendment, and there's a party that's responsible for it. Fifth Amendment, all these things. All right, there's parties responsible. The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, they don't have a underlying body other than the people. The people have a right to these things unabridged. The legal right to legal search and seizure, the right to search and seizure, is based on a context that if the courts can find compelling reason, it's stated right in there. All right. If there was an exception to the Second Amendment, they would have stated it in the Second Amendment. I don't think they ever intended for it to be abridged. Even felons. The concept of the Constitution is based on the right of free people. This is why the rights didn't apply early on to slaves, and they didn't apply to prisoners, because they weren't free people. But as a free man, these rights were considered to be inalienable.
Yeah, like I agree with you. I think that prisoners, when they're still prisoners, when they're still on probation, when they're still on parole, they most certainly don't have those rights because they're not free men. As soon as they have been found outside of that, they go back to being free men, and free men rules apply.
Right. I don't think these extra extensions of jail that extend back into society should exist. The federal system doesn't have a parole system for that very reason. It doesn't have a parole system. You just serve your time and you do it. Now, you can't get time allotted, and that's the basis of, hey, good behavior or whatever. But your time is your time, and you do your time. There is no paroling to it. There's no attaching probations. There's no attaching ankle monitors. There's no attaching all that, you know what I'm saying, to a federal system. In a state system, they have too many things that allow people to be controlled by the state, compelled by the state, but not be, released as free. I think once you're released from jail, that is your punishment. That is the universal accepted punishment. You let somebody out of jail, they're free to own their arms. They're free to do everything, and that's considered their debt to society being paid, and they are entitled to all the benefits that apply.
I agree. But speaking of time, it is 1:17. Let's go ahead and call it for the night.
All right, I was going to anyway. You actually got onto that. I want to thank Such Radio, even though the asshole that Justin is, he didn't show up tonight. I still want to thank him. I want to thank Battery Productions, one of the sponsors. I want to thank MBT, the other sponsors, because I also want to make a note that Mac Hatchett's show went really well. The fans were really excited, and he got offered another show. So as far as Mac Hatchett's career is going, it's coming along pretty nicely, and he's really starting to get known. We will be posting.
Have him on next week, and he can talk about his experience.
I intend to have him. I was going to have him tonight, but he's still busting it. Or just got back from busting it or whatever. But
look forward to him next week, and he can actually explain his experiences and stuff and all the cool stuff that he did over the last week. And he does have videos posted on Facebook of it if anyone cares to check it out.
We will also be posting them on the MBT website as well as at some point. We're lazy, so we'll get around to it. We'll get around to it, but they will be posted. All right, thank you, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.